Chapter 13:12. As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Hai dashed forward with a whoosh. Shuang shook her head helplessly and quickly chased after him. On the battlefield, Hu Li was fearless in the face of the elder's attacks. His handsome face remained expressionless. At this moment, an angry voice came from the sky and separated the two sides of the battle. Stop! This voice was like a devil's voice piercing through everyone's ears, striking their hearts like a hammer, causing their bodies to tremble. Hu Yu looked up in surprise and saw two people walking out of thin air. One of them was an old man whose face was livid with anger. The other was an elderly woman. Because she had taken good care of her body, there were no traces of wrinkles on her face. Instead, she looked very charming. You are. Hu Yu was stunned. He frowned and thought for a while. I remember you. You seem to be an elder of the West Continent Academy. An elder of the West Continent Academy? Everyone was stunned. Why would an elder of the West Continent Academy appear here? Hu Yu was lucky to be able to meet Ling Hai. When he was young, he followed his father around the world and coincidentally met the popular Ling Hai. He remembered him even more. However, Ling Hai did not recognize Hu Yu. He walked down from the sky and quickly walked in front of Yun Luofeng with a nervous expression. Disciple, are you all right? Disciple? Like a bolt from the blue, Hu Yu was stunned. This girl was Elder Ling Hai's disciple? Impossible. Why would Elder Ling Hai's disciple be together with Hu Li? I'm fine, Yun Luofeng shrugged. Hu Li is the one who's in trouble, not me. Hearing this, Ling Hai turned to look at Hu Li and said coldly, Hu Li, what happened? Hu Li looked at Hu Yu and explained, he joined forces with someone to frame my father. I'm now settling the score with him. Nonsense. Hu Yu glared at Hu Li. The one who framed your father was Ouyang Qianran, not me. Elder Ling Hai, don't listen to his nonsense. As his uncle, how could I harm his father? Ling Hai coldly snorted. Do you think I will believe the disciples of my academy or you? After he finished speaking, he once again turned to Hu Li and said resentfully, Hu Li, in any case, you're a disciple of our academy's heavenly role. Why is it so difficult to deal with these people? What if they accidentally hurt my precious disciple? At this moment, Ling Hai seemed to have forgotten that Yun Luofeng was stronger than Hu Li. How could these people hurt her? But now, no one was thinking about this sentence anymore. They were all stunned by Ling Hai's words, heavenly ranking disciple? Was Hu Li really a disciple of the Academy's heavenly list? Hu Yu's body trembled and he staggered a few steps. In the end, he couldn't bear it and fell to the ground with a bang. His face was pale and filled with fear. He was probably regretting his actions to the point that his intestines had turned green. Hu Yu had never thought that Hu Li would really be a disciple of the heaven role. No, I still have young Master Bai Su. Hu Yu's eyes turned from despair to hope. How could he forget about young Master Bai Su? With young Master Bai Su's strength, he would definitely be able to defeat the person in front of him. At this moment, Hu Yu had never thought that if Bai Su really had the confidence to defeat Yun Luofeng and the others, then why would he hide himself and let him be the one to stand out? Chapter 13:13. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng raised his head and saw Yun Xiao slowly walking towards him. His eyes held a smile as he asked, How is it? Yun Xiao's heart throbbed violently when he saw the girl's smile. He instinctively wanted to raise his hand to cover his heart, but when he remembered that Yun Luofeng was right in front of him, he could only lower his hand. I didn't manage to kill Bai Su, and he escaped. Bai Su escaped? The speaker did not mean it, but the listener did. Hu Yu's expression changed instantly when he heard this. Sir, Bai Su escaped? Does this mean that I've been abandoned by him? No! Hu Yu howled at the sky. Tears of despair finally flowed from his eyes and his face was ashen. Yun Xiao, let's talk inside. Let Hu Li handle this himself. Yun Luofeng held Yun Xiao's hand and turned to enter the room. Yun Zhao's heart throbbed again, but he did not pull his hand out of Yun Luofeng's. He allowed him to pull him into the room. Feng. Yun Xiao looked at Yun Luofeng seriously. I might need to leave for a while. Yun Luofeng was stunned. He turned to look at Yun Xiao. You're leaving? Bai Su's power is not as good as mine, but I can't kill him either. Just as Bai Su had once said, Yun Xiao could not kill him. Why? Yun Luofeng asked with a frown. Bai Su's body is very special. Not only does he have a long lifespan, his defense is also very strong. Of course, if it wasn't for the blood curse, Bai Su might have already died in his hands. So, I plan to go out and increase my power. Yun Luofeng grabbed Yun Zhao's arm tightly and said seriously, I'll go with you. No need, the place I'm going is too dangerous, I'm not afraid of any dangerous place. The girl's voice seemed to have a magical power that made Yun Zhao's heart feel like it was being torn apart again. It also made a drop of cold sweat appear on his handsome face. Yun Xiao, are you hurt? Yun Luofeng looked a little nervous as he hurriedly checked Yun Zhao's body. Yun Xiao lowered his gaze to stare at the young girl whose face was filled with worry. The corners of his lips curled into a slight angle. Don't worry, I'm fine. Feng, believe me, I'll be back very soon. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng's hand gradually slid down from Yun Zhao's arm. After a long time, a devilish smile appeared on her lips, and her black eyes were filled with determination. Okay, I will wait for you to come back. Yun Xiao smiled. He picked up Yun Luofeng's hand and pressed it tightly against his own chest. In the future, when I'm not by your side, I'll be able to feel it when you miss me. What he said was the truth. As long as Yun Luofeng missed him, his heart would be torn apart. Yun Luofeng tiptoed and kissed Yun Zhao's lip. As the two of them kissed, she clearly felt the man's body suddenly tremble. Yun Xiao? Yun Luofeng left the man's lips and stared in astonishment at the handsome and cold features. You? What's wrong? Why did he feel that something was wrong with Yun Xiao? I'm fine. Yun Xiao shook her head and forcibly suppressed the pain in her heart. She then said, Feng, you must wait for my return. As Yun Luofeng was in a daze, the man had already walked out of the room and gradually disappeared from her line of sight, outside the city gates. In the dense forest, the man's body leaned against a tree trunk. His hand was clutching his heart tightly. This heart-wrenching, lung-splitting pain would cause one's dashing brows to furrow deeply. Chapter 13-14. When he had been by Yun Luofeng's side, he had not dared to show it, no matter how much pain he was in. This was because the girl was too cautious. If he had shown even the slightest bit of pain, she would have noticed it. Master. At that moment, the man in green descended from the sky and cupped his fists respectfully. Lin Xiong has gone back to receive her punishment. Do you have any other orders, Master? Yun Xiao straightened his body. His hand was still clutching his heart tightly as a cold light flashed across his eyes. Middle ground. Middle ground? The man in green was stunned. Master wanted to go to middle ground? That place where powerful cultivators gathered? The heart of Bodhi only exists in middle ground. The heart of Bodhi? The green-clothed man asked cautiously, Master, may I be so bold as to ask this Bodhi heart? The heart of Bodhi can keep me alive for 3 days. The man's voice was cold and deep, but the young man was stunned. Alive for 3 days? What did that mean? Since he placed the blood curse in my heart, I will dig out his blood essence even if I have to cut open my heart. The man's voice was extremely domineering and echoed in the forest for a long time. The young man was completely dumbfounded. Did the master mean that once he found the heart of Bodhi, he would not die for 3 days no matter what kind of injuries he suffered? He would not die even if he cut open his own heart? But that was his heart. The master had gone to such an extent just to not betray the mistress? The young man could not help but sympathize with Lin Qiong. The master loved the mistress so deeply, but he had suggested that the master find a woman to break the blood curse. Wasn't this equivalent to angering the master and throwing him out to be punished? If Qin Yuan was here, he would definitely not say anything that went against the master's wishes. On the other hand, Lin Qiong was more foolish. Yun Xiao clenched his chest tightly and looked up at the blue sky behind him. Feng wait for me. Once I break the blood curse, I will come back to see you. Hu Li walked into the room and found that only Yun Luofeng was staring out the window in a daze. He coughed and said, I have settled the matter with the Hu family, so we can set off now. Yun Luofeng withdrew his gaze and nodded slightly. We will leave tomorrow. Take advantage of tonight to say goodbye to your father and brother. Alright, that's right, Yun Luofeng, your husband, Hu Li was just about to ask about Yun Xiao when he was interrupted by Yun Luofeng's voice. He has something to do and needs to leave. We don't have to wait for him. Yun Luofeng gently lowered her eyes. Her heart was faintly filled with unease. She kept feeling that Yun Xiao seemed to be hiding something from her. Master. Just as Yun Luofeng was thinking about Yun Xiao, Little Mo's voice slowly came from within her soul. No matter what Yun Xiao does, it's all for you. Therefore, the only thing you can do is to trust him. Yes. The only thing she could do was to trust her. Little Mo, I don't want to wait for him here. I will work hard to improve my strength and find him. She would find him at the ends of the earth. At the same time, in a mountain range, Jin Yu, supported by Su's body, found a piece of stone and stopped. She laid by Su's body flat on the stone, her beautiful eyes filled with heartache and worry. My lord, how are you? Bai Su did not even have the strength to open his eyes. Blood continuously seeped out from the bloody hole in his back, dyeing the stone red. Chapter 13:15. If his lord had not refined his physique to make his body different from an ordinary person, perhaps Yun Zhao's final attack would have killed his lord immediately. Jin Yu bit her lip tightly. However, even if his lord managed to save his life, he will still lose his life if he is not treated in time. What's more, he has just used 1,000 years of his life as the price to cast a blood curse. Bai Su's eyelids moved slightly and his hand hung limply on the ground. His face was already covered in blood, and it was impossible to see his features clearly. However, in order to fight Yun Xiao, Bai Su had forcibly used his strength to restore his body size. Hence, Jin Yu had struggled to carry him along the way, and her forehead was covered in a layer of sparkling and translucent sweat. My lord, I'm sorry. This subordinate is useless, and that's why you've sustained such serious injuries. Jin Yu's expression softened and her beautiful eyes gazed tenderly at Bai Su. Her fingers gently stroked Bai Su's cheek as her lips curled into a shallow smile. Now, there's only one way to save you. Furthermore, it can also help you restore a certain amount of your strength. Even if you'll hate me for this, I must save you. She lowered her head and gently kissed Bai Su's blood-stained lip. She then raised her hand and removed all her clothes. Back then, his lord had picked me up because of my special physique. As long as I was nurtured with medicinal herbs, my body could become a medium for his lord to restore his strength. Unfortunately, my physique is still not enough for his lord to restore all of his strength. However, now I have no other choice. This is the only way to save his lord's life. Bai Su furrowed his brows and instinctively wanted to resist. However, he did not even have the strength to raise his hand and could only allow that small hand to slide down his body. In the depths of the forest, the stone house was overflowing with spring. Jin Yu's movements were very rusty, and the pain made her beautiful face pale in an instant. Time ticked by and the man, who had his eyes tightly shut, suddenly opened them. His large hand fiercely hit Jin Yu's body, and Jin Yu's body flew out with a loud bang before she landed pathetically on the ground. Master, are you all right? Jin Yu propped herself up and looked at Bai Su in surprise. Bai Su coughed twice and spat out a mouthful of blood. He clenched his fists tightly, and the blue veins on his forehead bulged. Jin Yu, how dare you? Who made you do such a thing? Perhaps it was because his injuries were too severe and he had yet to recover, but Baisu's words seemed to lack strength. His devilishly handsome face was ashen. Master, Jin Yu bit her lips and stood up from the ground. Have you forgotten the ultimate purpose of bringing me back that year? Just now. I just wanted to help you. Baisu sneered. Help me? You're helping me? Get lost. Get out of my sight. I don't want to see you again. Master? Jin Yu was stunned. She knew that the master would definitely have an overreaction, but she didn't expect that he would drive her away directly. Master, this subordinate, scram. Don't force me to kill you. A murderous intent flashed across Baisu's eyes. His voice was filled with intense anger, and he could not suppress it. Master. Jin Yu smiled. Her smile was beautiful and moving, and her beautiful eyes were surging with a firm light. You once brought me back and used medicinal herbs to cultivate me. The purpose was to let me restore your strength, but now, you haven't let me take a medicinal bath for a long time. Chapter 13:16. Baisu's gaze became colder and colder, filled with an eerie chill. Looking at the man's cold eyes, Jin Yu could not help but shiver. She bit her pale lips and said nothing. Put on your clothes and let's go. Baisu was no longer angry with Jin Yu. He slowly stood up from the stone and leaned against the tree behind him with his slightly staggered body. But his cold expression made Jin Yu even more flustered. She knelt on the ground with a bang and said anxiously, My lord, I know I was wrong. Please don't chase me away. Jin Yu, don't force me to do anything to you. Baisu took a deep breath and gently closed his eyes. He clenched his fists so tightly that they made a cracking sound. He was obviously extremely angry. Jin Yu slowly stood up from the ground, and her lips curled into a self-deprecating smile. My lord, you don't want to touch me because of Yun Luofeng? Suddenly, Baisu opened his eyes. His sword-like eyes shot towards Jin Yu and he said sternly, What nonsense are you talking about? My lord, don't you know if I'm talking nonsense or not? Jin Yu's face was pale. That's right. Yun Luofeng is not only beautiful, but also talented and excellent. How can you not be tempted by such a woman? Perhaps my lord wanted to use Yun Luofeng in the beginning, but later on, you got to know her more and more and became more obsessed with her? Am I right? Shut up. Baisu angrily stopped Jin Yu's words. I've always just wanted to use her. If you dare to make any more wild guesses, don't blame me for killing you right now. Jin Yu smiled gently. Her smile was beautiful, but it was filled with sorrow. Even if my lord wants my life, so what if I give it to my lord? My life was saved by you, my lord. All these years, I've followed you without any other request. I'll do my best to get the woman you want for you. If my lord hadn't been seriously injured this time, I wouldn't have violated you. So, I don't regret it. Whoosh! A fierce wind blew toward Jin Yu. Baisu's palm tightly grasped her neck, and a dense light flashed in her evil eyes. Jin Yu's body trembled. She closed her eyes tightly and her lips curled into a smile. To be able to die in the hands of the Lord, she had no regrets. Baisu's grip became more and more forceful. He only needed to exert a little more strength, and the young girl in front of him would die here. But in the end, he loosened his fingers. With a wave of his sleeves, a force hit Jin Yu's body. In an instant, Jin Yu's body flew out and fell to the ground in a sorry state. I never want to see you again in this life. After that, his figure flashed and quickly disappeared in front of Jin Yu. However, Baisu did not leave for long. He stopped 100 meters away and punched the ancient tree beside him. I like Yun Luofeng? How is this possible? Baisu sneered and his devilishly charming face curled into a mocking smile. For 1,000 years, no one has been able to move my heart. Just Yun Luofeng alone doesn't have this ability. However, Yun Luofeng is much stronger than his mother. Bai Ling, he had wanted to use Yun Luofeng from the beginning. It was like this in the past, and it will be like this in the future. Fall in love with her? It would never be possible. Baisu looked behind him at the thought of this. After seeing that Jin Yu did not follow, he quickly disappeared into the forest again. Chapter 13:17. The sun was high up in the sky. A streak of fiery light flashed across the sky, dyeing the sky red like a flame. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, several figures descended from the sky and stood in front of the woman in red. The woman in red raised her brow and swept her domineering gaze across the people blocking her way. She then cried out in a stern voice, "Get out of the way! My lady, we've finally found you. The continent lord has asked for you to return." A few people were unwilling to obey the woman in red's orders and continued to block her way as they replied respectfully, "Get out of the way." The woman in red berated them coldly. Her fiery red robes ignited her temper like gunpowder. "My lady," an elderly voice rang out from behind the crowd. An old man dressed in green robes slowly stepped forward with a kind smile on his face. "My lady, you've been away for a few years now. I wonder if you're willing to return to the East Continent with us?" The woman in red's expression gradually sank as she stared coldly at the old man in front of her. "Even you're here. It seems that he's determined to force me to return. My lady, the continent lord is doing this for your own good." "Enough!" Seeing that the old man was about to say something else, the woman in red cut him off. "I'll return to the East Continent, but I don't want anyone to restrict my freedom." The woman in red waved her sleeves. Her peerless features were cold and distant, and her eyes were so cold that it made one's heart tremble. The old man shook his head in exasperation. In order to escape her marriage, the lady had fled from the East Continent to the West Continent and had even sneaked into the West Continent Academy. If it had not been for a coincidence, they would never have known that the lady would hide in a place like this. Indeed, based on the lady's talents, a place like the West Continent Academy would not be worthy of her attention. However, that was the only place that would be unexpected. "By the way, my lady, I've heard that you've been looking for someone recently. Is that right?" The old man's eyes darted back and forth as he asked. The woman in red swept her sharp gaze towards the old man. "This is my private matter, it's none of your business. If these people were to find out who she was looking for, they would certainly use every possible means to find Yun Luofeng and force her to go to the continent lord's mansion." However, this was not what she wanted. West Continent. The border was desolate. It was like an ancient battlefield, with no signs of human habitation other than the smoke of gunpowder. "Yun Luofeng, we'll reach the East Continent after passing this place. Are we really going there?" Hu Li was a little hesitant as he carefully looked at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. "What's the matter with the East Continent?" "This." Hu Li smiled bitterly as he shook his head. "Before the elders left, they told me that some time ago, someone from the East Continent came to look for the number 1 genius on the Heaven leaderboard. Therefore, I guess that she should be from the East Continent. Since we've come to the East Continent, we might bump into her." Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes. "The East Continent is so big. I might not meet her." Hu Li thought about it and agreed, so he did not stop Yun Luofeng. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of a small figure hidden in the sand in front of him. He was stunned for a moment before he involuntarily walked forward and used his fingers to dig away the sand, revealing a small figure. "Yun Luofeng, there's a child here." "Children?" A hint of suspicion flashed across Yun Luofeng's eyes as he looked in Hu Li's direction. He saw a young child lying in the sand. He was wearing a blood-stained robe that did not fit him. At this moment, the boy was frowning and his dirty little face showed a pained expression. Chapter 13:18. "Master, this child's body has the aura of the fruit of the soul." "The fruit of the soul?" Yun Luofeng was stunned and looked at the boy with an even more solemn expression. "This child's body doesn't have any spiritual energy fluctuations, so why is he here? And why does he have the aura of the fruit of the soul? As he spoke, Huli had already carried the boy out of the sand and quickly walked towards Yun Luofeng. This child seems to have suffered quite a serious injury. Yun Luofeng, your medical skills are excellent, can you think of a way to save him? Yun Luofeng thought for a moment and gently nodded. His injuries are not a problem, I'll just feed him a spiritual herb. Huli will go to the inn later. Help him change his clothes first. She was determined to obtain the fruit of the soul. She would not let go of even the slightest bit of information. Fortunately, this place was not too far from the East Continent. Based on their speed, they could reach it in 2 hours. Although this place was at the border of the 2 continents, there were quite a number of inns. It was obvious that many people would often come to the border to hunt spiritual beasts. At this moment, Yun Luofeng was sitting on a chair in the inn. She held a cup of tea in her hand and languidly sipped it. Suddenly, a hand pushed open the room door, and Huli walked in with a half-grown boy. The boy had washed the dust off his face, and had changed into a clean silver robe. He looked young and adorable. His pink, jade-carved face was still filled with nervousness as he timidly watched Yun Luofeng, who was sitting in the room. I've already washed him clean. Huli stroked the boy's head and her lips curled into a smile. She then raised her head to look at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng put down the teacup in her hand and lowered her eyes to stare at the person in front of her. Your name? The boy looked at her weakly and spoke in a voice as soft as an ant. I don't remember? Don't remember? Yun Luofeng raised her brows and asked. The little boy nodded with a weak and pitiful expression on his face. I don't remember anything. Can you take me in? I promise I won't cause you any trouble. He bit his lip and his large eyes were filled with tears. He looked like he had been bullied. Then who injured you? Yun Luofeng continued to ask. The little boy seemed to recall some horrifying images. Fear surfaced in his eyes. He hugged his head tightly and squatted on the ground in pain. It's a bandit. Those bandits wanted to capture me as a male pet. I didn't agree, so they injured me. The boy's skin was soft and tender, and he looked like he was carved from jade. It was indeed easy to attract the attention of some pervert. But perhaps Yun Luofeng was overthinking things, but he felt that his appearance was not just a coincidence. Go and rest first. Yun Luofeng lazily stretched his body and said evilly. All right. The little boy nodded obediently. He looked at Yun Luofeng one last time, then turned and walked out the door. Bang! After he left, Yun Luofeng waved his hand and smashed the door. Huli, watch her. Her voice sank and she said coldly, however, no matter what he does, you must not stop him. I want to see what his goal is. As for why Yun Luofeng did not chase him away, that was because the aura of the fruit of souls on the boy's body was real and reliable. She wanted to find the fruit of souls through this boy. You're saying that there's something wrong with this boy? Huli looked at Yun Luofeng with some surprise. Chapter 13:19. Yun Luofeng shook her head. I didn't say that there's anything wrong with him. This is just my guess. I hope that my guess is wrong. No matter what, Huli, you must keep a close eye on him. In this world, there were not many people she could trust. She would not simply trust a stranger whom she had never met. I understand. Huli nodded seriously. I'll keep an eye on him. I'll report to you if anything happens. You can leave too. Yun Luofeng held the back of his head with both hands and closed his eyes as if he was tired. Huli did not say anything else and left the room. After he left, Yun Luofeng opened her eyes. A light flashed across her eyes. Little Mo, did you notice anything wrong with that child? Little Mo shook his head. I couldn't sense anything wrong. Little Mo's sensitivity was the strongest. If even he could not sense anything wrong, could it be that she had guessed wrongly? I've already asked Huli to keep an eye on him. If there's anything wrong with him, Huli will sense it. If he's here with ulterior motives, I won't let him off. Yun Luofeng slowly rose from the chair and walked towards the large bed. I hope that I can find the fruit of the soul soon and help Xiao Bai recover. Next, I'll look for Yun Xiao. She had a feeling that Yun Xiao was hiding something from her. Therefore, she had to find that man no matter what. No matter how great the difficulty was, they must face it together. The night was like water. The silence was alluring. Yun Luofeng sensed that the door to her room had been pushed open. She raised her brows but did not make a sound. A hand grabbed onto her blanket, and then slowly reached into it. Yun Luofeng finally could not hold it in any longer and raised her hand to grab a small hand. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and her sharp gaze swept towards the little boy in front of the bed. She asked in a cold voice, "What are you doing?" The little boy was stunned. He looked at Yun Luofeng aggrievedly and tears almost fell from his eyes. "I want to sleep with you." Yun Luofeng gently narrowed her eyes. "I'm sorry, only my man can sleep on my bed. Even if you're just a child, there's no room for you." The boy lowered his head. His expression was one of despair and sorrow, as if he had suffered a great injury. "You're very similar to my mother. I couldn't hold back just now, so..." A dangerous light flashed in Yun Luofeng's eyes. "Didn't you lose your memory?" The boy's head was still lowered, so no one could see the expression on that adorable young face. "I don't remember the past, but I have my mother's portrait. I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose." Creak. At this moment the door was opened again. Huli pretended not to know anything and stepped in from outside the room. He seemed to have not woken up yet and yawned lazily. "Why are you in Yun Luofeng's room? Let's go back to sleep." The boy allowed Huli to pull him out of the room. The instant he walked out of the room, he turned his head and looked at Yun Luofeng once more. His eyes were filled with longing and reluctance to part with him. If it was an ordinary person who met such a handsome boy, they would definitely not be able to control their motherly love. Unfortunately, Yun Luofeng was not an ordinary person in front of this boy. Her state of mind had never changed. Chapter 13:20. Not long after Huli left with the boy, he appeared in the room again. "Just now, I sensed this guy sneaking out, so I followed him. I didn't expect him to come directly to your room. I know your strength, so I didn't act rashly. I wanted to see what he wanted to do." Huli looked at Yun Luofeng seriously and explained why he had appeared so late. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. "That's right. Continue to monitor him." Huli hesitated for a moment. "Yun Luofeng, don't you have a hamster? Using that hamster to monitor him would probably be better than me. Why did you?" "I don't know why, but I don't feel safe letting Milk Tea monitor him." After saying this, Yun Luofeng fell silent. No one knew what he was thinking. Huli's eyes narrowed. "Actually, I think he really misses his mother. That's why he came to find you. This boy doesn't seem to have any strength and looks harmless. He shouldn't be in any danger." Hearing this, Yun Luofeng smiled. She slowly stood up and said, "Huli, you can't judge a person by their appearance. Do you understand? The more harmless he is, the more sinister he might be. I, Yun Luofeng, have lived to this day because I don't trust anyone." Back when she was still in Huaxia, she had experienced a broken family. Her kind-looking uncle had adopted her, but after receiving the property left behind by her parents, his face immediately changed. As for her, she had been sent to an orphanage. Those children who appeared obedient and sensible in front of others liked to torture others behind their back. Because of this, she didn't trust anyone, even if the other party was just a harmless child. Huli was silent for a moment, then nodded. "I understand. I will continue to watch him and won't let him do anything threatening. Go and rest. We still have to hurry on our journey tomorrow." Yun Luofeng waved his hand and lay down on the bed again. Huli's heart had already become clear. He also understood why Yun Luofeng was so cautious. He glanced at Yun Luofeng gratefully and walked out of the room. On this mainland, one had to be vigilant at all times. Otherwise, one could lose their life at any time. The next day, dawn. Hu Li and the little boy had been waiting at Yun Luofeng's door for a long time. When he saw the door open, the little boy's black eyes flashed with joy. However, when he thought of Yun Luofeng's attitude towards him last night, his expression became incomparably timid. Yun Luofeng's gaze moved from Hu Li's body to the boy. He carefully examined the boy's harmless face. "You said yesterday that you lost your memory and probably forgot your own name. How about this, from now on, your name is Nothing." "Nothing?" Confusion flashed through the boy's eyes, as if he did not understand the meaning of this name. Yun Luofeng clearly didn't want to explain any further, but her lips curled into an evil smile. "Hu Li, he looks like he's carved from jade. When the day comes that we don't have enough money to spend, we'll sell him to a brothel." Little Mo, who was coaxing the small tree in his soul, suddenly heard Yun Luofeng's words and his face darkened. "Master, you have a special liking for brothels?" The first time she saw Yun Xiao, she also wanted to sell her to a brothel. Yun Luofeng, Hu Li's mouth twitched. "This doesn't seem to be a good idea, right?" Chapter 13:21. Yun Luofeng glanced at him. "I don't keep idle people. If he wants to follow me, he must be of some use. Otherwise, I'll sell him to a brothel immediately." Hearing Yun Luofeng's words, the little boy immediately panicked. His bright eyes flashed with panic, and a pitiful expression hung on his pitiful face. "I can wash and cook, and I can take care of pets. Don't sell me to a brothel, okay?" He originally wanted to hug Yun Luofeng's leg, but thinking of the girl's coldness, he couldn't help but stop in his tracks. He only looked at her with those pitiful eyes, afraid that she would really sell him to a brothel in a fit of anger. In reality, Hu Li could already tell that Yun Luofeng was joking. If she really did not want to take this little boy in, she would not have let him stay, and would not have sent him to keep an eye on him. Unfortunately, no matter where Yun Luofeng went, he would always meet people who liked to meddle in other people's business. There's actually such a cruel person in this world, willing to sell such a cute child? A young man's angry voice sounded from the side. "Little girl, won't you be struck by lightning for doing this?" Hu Li's face darkened, and she coldly glanced at the young man who was slowly walking over. The moment she saw the young man, her expression turned even uglier. "Wang Junfei, why are you here?" "Oh, I was wondering who it was. So it's the trash from the West Continent College, ha ha." Wang Junfei laughed out loud. "I was just guessing. Who could be so heartless to such an extent? It's actually someone from the Western Continent Academy." "That's right, other than your Western Continent Academy, who else would be so poor as to sell their children?" Hearing the conversation between the two, Yun Luofeng glanced at Hu Li. "You know him?" Hu Li coldly snorted. "He's from the East Continent College. We've met before and even fought. However, he lost to me, so he has always harbored a grudge and wants to seek revenge on me." Wang Junfei's expression turned cold. "Harbored a grudge? What right do you have to make me hold a grudge? Our East Continent College gathers geniuses from various forces, unlike the West Continent, where someone with a family background like yours can actually enter. The East Continent College was an elite college, and the enrollment fee was ridiculously high, which caused many ordinary people to shrink back. However, the Western Continent Academy was different. As long as one's strength met the standard, anyone could enter. Don't get in our way, Scram! Hu Li shouted coldly as a cold light flashed across his fox eyes. If you insist on not leaving, that means you want to get beaten up again. Wang Junfei's eyes darkened as he sneered and said, Hu Li, I'm indeed no match for you, but so what? I'm not like you, Ziran Yixing. This time, I brought people with me. Do you think that you alone can beat me? What a joke. Men, go and capture these people for me. Looking at the two middle-aged men who were slowly walking forward, Hu Li's face gradually darkened. Wang Junfei was nothing to him, but there was an expert from the Wang family here. Suddenly, a hand landed on Wang Junfei's body. The young girl stepped forward, and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. Are you people who want to beat up my people? Wang Junfei narrowed his eyes. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that? I will settle the matter of you abducting and selling children with you later. Right now I am looking for the people from the Western Continent Academy. Chapter 1322. Yun Luofeng smiled faintly. Sorry, I'm also from the Western Continent College, so, do I have the right to fight with you? Wang Junfei scoffed coldly and waved his hand. What are you waiting for? Fight? In Wang Junfei's eyes, Yun Luofeng was nothing. He was probably another person who had been seduced by Hu Li. What a pity, such a peerless beauty had actually followed a pauper like Hu Li. That's right, in Wang Junfei's eyes, Hu Li was a pauper. Even if he was ranked 10th on the Western Continent College's heaven list, even if he was valued by the college, he still could not compare to the powerful Wang family. With the Wang family's strength, wouldn't it be a matter of minutes to crush him? Just as Wang Junfei finished speaking, the young girl's figure suddenly disappeared into thin air. Before he could return to his senses, she had already appeared in front of him. Bang! With a kick, Wang Junfei, who was standing between the two burly men, was kicked out and he tumbled down the stairs in an extremely sorry state. The Wang family's experts were stunned, but they quickly reacted and surrounded Yun Luofeng. Hu Li stood by her side and faced the enemy in front of them together with her. Kill them, kill them! Wang Junfei no longer cared that these two people were from the Western Continent College. He stood up and roared angrily. His eyes were bloodshot like a jackal, a tiger, or a leopard. The two burly men immediately moved. Their fists were wrapped in spiritual power and like a storm, they attacked Yun Luofeng and Hu Li. He looked helplessly at Yun Luofeng and Hu Li. He bit his lips tightly and did not make a sound. What happened? Suddenly, a low shout came from outside the door, causing Wang Junfei, who was already in a bad mood, to fly into a rage. Unrelated people, get out of my sight! Don't provoke me! The footsteps stopped in front of Wang Junfei. After that, he heard an aged voice, and it was filled with rage. Are you sure you want me to get out? Wang Junfei frowned and was just about to turn around to teach this ungrateful old man a lesson when he suddenly saw the guard beside the old man take out a token and wave it in front of Wang Junfei. On the token, the words, Continent Lord's Mansion, shone brightly, causing Wang Junfei's expression to change instantly. You are from the Prefecture Lord's Mansion? He swallowed his saliva with some difficulty, and his eyes were filled with horror. He had offended someone from the Continent Lord's Mansion. The old man said coldly, Now, can you tell me what happened here? It's like this. Wang Junfei suppressed the fear in his heart. These two people are from the Western Continent Academy, and they even boldly provoked the Eastern Continent, and even claimed that the Eastern Continent is inferior to the Western Continent. Most importantly, they dared to insult the Prefecture Master's Mansion of the East Continent. Wang Junfei, who was originally filled with fear, spoke more and more smoothly, pushing all the blame onto Yun Luofeng. Oh right, the man among the two is called Hu Li. He is a member of the Western Continent Academy's Heaven Ranking. The 10 disciples of the Heaven Ranking are all trash. Besides, I heard that the top 10 disciples of the Heaven Ranking are planning to join forces to destroy the academies of the Eastern Continent and raise the Continent Lord's Mansion to the ground? Oh! Suddenly, a woman's voice rang out from the back of the crowd. When Wang Junfei raised his head, he saw a woman dressed in red walking out. She raised her eyebrows and spoke in a domineering voice. Are you sure that the 10 disciples of the Western Continent really spread such rumors? Wang Junfei thought about the woman's identity. Since she was walking with the people of the Continent Lord's Mansion, she must be from the Continent Lord's Mansion. My young miss is asking you a question, hurry up and answer. The old man saw that Wang Junfei did not speak and shouted coldly. Young miss? Wang Junfei was stunned. This beauty was the eldest young miss of the Continent Lord's Mansion? Thinking of this, Wang Junfei did not dare to hesitate and hurriedly said, That's right, this matter is absolutely true. Eldest young miss, you must bring people to destroy that arrogant Western Continent Academy. The Western Continent Academy should not exist in the first place. Now that the eldest young miss has heard these people belittling the Continent Lord's mansion, she would definitely kill the 10 disciples of the Heaven ranking. If the Western Continent Academy did not have the Heaven ranking, it would be completely useless. Therefore, this was the reason why Wang Junfei had implicated the 10 disciples of the Heaven ranking. Originally, he could have only framed Huli alone, but in order to destroy the Western Continent Academy, he claimed that the words were spread by the 10 people of the Heaven ranking. Unfortunately, Wang Junfei did not know that he had made a huge mistake. The red-clothed woman curled her lips. Her voice was like that of a demon, causing Wang Junfei's heart to tremble. I'm sorry, I'm also a member of the Western Continent Academy and I'm also at the top of the Heaven ranking. Chapter 13:23. Wang Junfei was stunned. His face turned pale from his initial shock as he stared at the woman in red in terror. What did she just say? That there was nothing wrong with my ears? The woman in red sneered. She did not look at Wang Junfei again as she walked towards Yun Luofeng in the corridor. Huli had just repelled the enemy in front of him when he suddenly saw the woman in red walking towards him. His body trembled in fear, and he almost dropped the sword in his hand. Why are you here? His eyes were filled with panic as he wailed in his heart. He had thought that the East Continent was so vast that it was impossible for him to meet this lunatic. Who would have thought that he would meet her in a place like this? The woman in red's gaze never stopped on Huli. Her gaze landed on Yun Luofeng and she gently raised the corners of her lips. Yun Luofeng? Yun Luofeng stopped what he was doing and stared deeply at the woman in red who had appeared in front of him. The number 1 genius of the West Continent Institute, Hong Luan? Hong Luan smiled. Number 1 genius? If you hadn't appeared, I would have been able to take on this title. But now, I feel that this title suits you better. Yun Luofeng, I've long heard of you and I'd like to see your strength. I wonder if you're willing to fight? Some battles were destined to be unavoidable. All right. Yun Luofeng raised his brows slightly. I accept your challenge. Whoosh. The woman in red raised her hand and a long sword appeared out of thin air in her hand. She had never underestimated Yun Luofeng's strength from the beginning. Hence, she did not hold back and took the initiative to attack. A sharp gust of wind from the sword swept past and the doors of the inn were affected. They collapsed and turned into ruins. Yun Luofeng did not hesitate and met his opponent's attack head-on. It's over, my inn. The inn owner cried bitterly as he watched the battle between the two. His expression was even more sorrowful than if his parents had died. The old man frowned and swept his cold gaze across the inn owner. He then took out a silver note from his sleeve and tossed it at him. The Continent Lord's palace has bought this inn. You can do whatever you want with it. As for the rest of you, leave immediately. The innkeeper was originally heartbroken over the destruction of his inn, but he didn't expect that the people from the Continent Lord's mansion would be so generous, casually giving him a banknote with a face value of 10,000 taels. He was deeply grateful and repeatedly thanked them before turning around and leaving. Wang Junjia's eyes turned slightly. He planned to take advantage of the chaos to sneak out of here. Just as he took a step forward, a hand reached out from behind and grabbed his clothes. You can't leave yet. Wang Junjia fiercely swallowed a mouthful of saliva and laughed awkwardly. Sir, as the saying goes, the ignorant are not guilty. I did not know that eldest miss is a student of the Western Continent Academy, so the old man's cold eyes swept over Wang Junjia. The killing intent in his eyes caused Wang Junjia's heart to tremble. He hurriedly shut his mouth and obediently stayed in the inn, not daring to take another step out. Boom! The corridor collapsed, and the two of them fell into the hall from the corridor. The sword chi was like a rainbow, rampaging everywhere. The tables and chairs were all thrown to the ground, and it was a complete mess. The woman in red took 2 steps back and stood amidst the dust that filled the sky. Her mesmerizing phoenix eyes narrowed slightly, and her red lips curled into a domineering angle. Yun Luofeng, you didn't use your true abilities. Chapter 13:24. She raised her head slightly and looked at the beautiful woman standing in front of her, and the reason why I challenge you is because I want to see your true power. Yun Luofeng glanced at the woman in red and kept her sword. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. The woman in red's voice was confident and loud. I'm confident that I can defeat you. Boom. Countless vines appeared on the ground around Yun Luofeng. These vines seemed to be alive as they wrapped themselves around Hong Luan. Hong Luan's eyes flashed with battle intent. This was the only way things would be interesting, right? If her opponent was too weak, she would lose the desire to fight. Boom. Yun Luofeng was very fast. Like a gust of wind, she passed through the vines and arrived in front of Hong Luan. Her fist was wrapped in a layer of powerful energy as she punched fiercely towards Hong Luan's chest. When Hong Luan saw that Yun Luofeng had thrown away his weapon, she also threw the sword in her hand onto the ground. Her domineering laughter echoed throughout the entire inn. Haha, Yun Luofeng, I didn't come back to the East Continent for nothing this time. Bang! Their fists collided in the air, and it was like a bomb had exploded, stirring up a strong storm. Her hair danced in the wind, and she looked indescribably enchanting and peerless. Huli was stunned. She stared blankly at the young girl standing in front of Hong Luan as a look of surprise flashed across her eyes. Yun Luofeng's power seemed to be at the high-level Holy Spirit stage. While Hong Luan had already reached the mid-level Holy King, however, she had actually faced Hong Luan's attack head-on. In reality, what Huli did not know was that the vines had disturbed Hong Luan, giving Yun Luofeng the opportunity to attack her. On top of that, Yun Luofeng had been trapped in the celestial spirit mirror for 3 months, causing her body to be stronger than an ordinary person's. If the two of them had fought with weapons, Yun Luofeng might not have been Hong Luan's match. However, Hong Luan had chosen to fight Yun Luofeng with her fist. This also allowed Yun Luofeng to have the ability to resist Hong Luan. The time that the two of them had fought might not have been long in the eyes of others, but to them, it had exhausted all their energy. Logically speaking, with Yun Luofeng having so many medicinal herbs, it should be easy for her to recover her strength. Unfortunately, in this battle, she did not know how to cheat. This caused the two of them to lose their strength at the same time, collapsing to the ground. Hong Luan's forehead was dripping with sweat, but her face was curved into a charming smile. She turned to look at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng, you are stronger than I imagined. It's been a long time since I've had such a good fight. Let's fight again after I recover. Yun Luofeng smiled faintly. Okay. Ha ha ha. Hong Luan could not help but laugh maniacally. Her eyes were curved and her eyes were filled with joy. At this moment, Yun Luofeng had already taken out a piece of blood ginseng and placed it in his mouth. He then gave another piece to Hong Luan, who was next to him. Hong Luan was stunned. She took the blood ginseng and popped it into her mouth. When the blood ginseng entered her mouth, she felt the strength in her body gradually recovering. Thank you. She leapt up from the ground and extended her hand towards Yun Luofeng. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Hong Luan. The master of the East Continent is my father. Initially, I had gone to the West Continent Academy to escape from my marriage. Who would have thought that I would be discovered by this group of people? Yun Luofeng raised his brows and looked at the group of people who were following closely behind Hong Luan. The smile on his lips deepened. Yun Luofeng. Hong Luan's eyes flickered. Why don't you pretend to be my man? Chapter 13:25. Yun Luofeng's face darkened. The people from the Continent Lord's residence were also stunned as they stared at the cunning Hong Luan. No way. Huli was the first to jump out. Yun Luofeng is a woman, how can he pretend to be your man? Hong Luan looked at him disdainfully. Just disguise as a man. I will not marry the man father has chosen for me anyway. Miss. The expressions of the people from the continent lord's residence changed drastically as they hurriedly tried to stop Hong Luan. Hong Luan looked at them coldly. You are not allowed to leak any information about this. If I find out that you have spread this, I will not let you off. Don't forget, father will grow old one day and I will be the one in charge of the East Continent. The woman's voice was domineering as her cold eyes swept past everyone. Yun Luofeng's expression darkened. I did not agree. Hong Luan was not as domineering as she was with the people from the continent lord's residence. She smiled. We are already friends. Won't you help a friend when he is in trouble? You can look for Huli. No. I only want you. If it had been anyone else, Yun Luofeng would have left without a word. However, she admired Hong Luan very much and felt a sense of kinship with her. All right. I agree. Yun Luofeng agreed. However, you have to do me a favor. What is it? As long as you say it, I will definitely do it. I want to find someone. His name is Yun Shao and his nickname is Ghost Emperor. The people from the continent lord's residence had thought that Yun Luofeng would reject their Mrs. Rude request. They never expected her to agree so readily. Their hearts trembled at the thought of their young miss bringing this woman back. They hoped that the continent lord did not see through them. Otherwise, they would not be able to escape. Did you hear that? Hong Luan raised her brows and turned to the people behind her. Go and find him immediately. If you can't find him, don't come back to see me. Miss, then you. The old man frowned. I will go back myself. There is no need for you to say anything. The old man laughed bitterly as he looked at the woman's cold and arrogant eyes. He had no choice but to leave with the people from the continent lord's residence. After everyone left, Hong Luan noticed Wang Junjie, who was trying to sneak away. You want to leave after insulting my West Continent Academy? Hong Luan sneered. How can there be such a good thing in this world? Huli, go beat him up for me. Let him understand that West Continent Academy has my support. Huli seemed to be very afraid of Hong Luan and did not dare to disobey her orders at all. In addition, he had endured Wang Junjie for a long time. He immediately rushed up and beat him until he cried out in pain. He did not look like a human, nor did he look like a ghost. Yun Luofeng glanced at Wang Junjie, who was wailing in pain under Huli's rage. His evil eyes gradually fell on Hong Luan. When are we leaving? Hong Luan stroked her chin. Let's go, I'll bring you to change into men's clothes. After that, we'll set off for the continent lord's mansion. The streets were messy and noisy with people coming and going. In the silk shop, Hong Luan was waiting anxiously at the entrance. Not long after, a beautiful youth dressed in white appeared in front of her. Her eyes instantly lit up. The youth was devastatingly beautiful and his evil lips were curled into a smile. His posture was languid and demonic, filled with an indescribable charm. Chapter 13:26. Yun Luofeng, I didn't think that you would look so perfect in men's clothes. TSK, if you were really a man, I would definitely fall in love with you. Hong Luan circled around Yun Luofeng and the more she looked, the happier she became. Just as she had said, when Yun Luofeng appeared in the crowd, those women could not take their eyes off her. Huli was also stunned. She did not know that Yun Luofeng was so devastatingly beautiful and peerless even in men's clothes. The heavens were really unfair. They had given her a flawless face and also gifted her with peerless talent. Such a person was like a darling of the heavens who had been doted on by thousands for a lifetime. Yun Luofeng saw the stunned and dazed look in Hong Luan's eyes. She smiled evilly and gently lifted her chin with her finger. Hong Luan, remember what you promised me. Hong Luan returned to her senses and slapped Yun Luofeng's hand away. She glared at her. Do you really think of yourself as a man? And you're even teasing me? I heard that you're already married and your husband is an extremely overbearing jealous jar. I don't want your husband to find me and think that I'm taking advantage of his wife." After saying this, Hong Luan hurriedly turned around. She gently patted her burning cheeks and exhaled heavily. If Yun Luofeng was really a man, she would definitely be bewitched by her. Of course, the prerequisite was that she had already let go of that person in her heart. Let's go. Yun Luofeng stretched lazily. Aren't you in a hurry to return to the Continent Lord's residence? I can help you settle this matter earlier. Hong Luan nodded. The journey to the Continent Lord's residence is not very far from here. We can reach it in a day. Yun Luofeng, no matter what happens, I will definitely protect you. This was her promise to her. It was a promise that could only be made once, but she had fulfilled it for a lifetime. Yun Luofeng. Hu Li walked in front of Yun Luofeng. I think that when you're dressed as a man, don't smile at women casually. Otherwise, when the time comes, young Master Yun Shao will not only have to face his male love rivals but also some female love rivals. Will he be able to handle them all? Yun Luofeng shrugged. I'm just joking. Besides, do you think that Hong Luan is the kind of person who isn't mentally strong enough? If Hong Luan's mind wasn't strong enough, she wouldn't have been able to reach this stage. Hu Li understood this point and hurriedly followed behind Yun Luofeng, stepping into the distance. East Continent. In the Continent Lord's mansion, a middle-aged man sat on a chair. His eyes were cold and his expression was solemn. The first miss hasn't returned yet? Continent Lord, the eldest miss is already on her way back to the city. She should be back soon. Just as this person finished speaking, a figure rushed in from outside the door and said in surprise, Continent Lord, eldest young miss, she's back. What? The Continent Lord, who originally had a serious expression, upon hearing this, instantly stood up. An imperceptible joy flashed across his eyes, and then he became extremely serious. I'd like to ask her where she has been all these years. She doesn't even return home. After saying this, the Continent Lord led a group of people out of the hall. Suddenly, before he could even take a step forward, that fiery red dress had already appeared in front of him. Father, I'm back. Hong Luan raised her head and looked at the Continent Lord as she spoke slowly. The Continent Lord was just about to speak when her next sentence caused his expression to change on the spot. Chapter 13:27. Father, I've returned this time to announce something. Hong Luan hooked the hand of the young man next to her and her red lips curled into a sly smile. This is my man, Yun Luofeng. In the beginning, the Continent Lord's gaze had been fixed on his precious daughter. Now that he heard this, his expression changed greatly and he turned to look at the young man who was standing next to Hong Luan. The young man was dressed in white robes and was incomparably handsome. There seemed to be an evil smile in his pitch-black eyes. With just one glance, one would be deeply attracted to his black eyes. Danger. That's right. In the Continent Lord's eyes, Yun Luofeng was both beautiful and dangerous. His evil was impossible to guard against and the smile on his face was cold. The Continent Lord's expression sank. Luaner, don't mess around. I've already chosen a fiancé for you. You have to marry him even if you don't want to. Father, Hong Luan laughed icily. Why do you insist on me marrying him? Is it because he's the young master of the North Continent's Continent Lord's mansion? Have you ever thought about whether I'll be happy if I marry him? The Continent Lord frowned and said helplessly, Luaner, I believe that you'll be happy if you marry him. Furthermore, haven't you two had a good relationship since you were young? Why are you so against becoming his wife now? Father, you don't have to say anything else. I'll only marry Yun Luofeng. I won't marry any other man. Hong Luan threw out these domineering words and pulled Yun Luofeng away. The Continent Lord flew into a rage. Luaner, stop right there. Hong Luan stopped in her tracks and lowered her eyelids to hide the coldness in her eyes. Sir Yun, the Continent Lord looked at Yun Luofeng and said politely, Luaner is the young lady of the East Continent's Continent Lord's mansion. She's destined to marry someone from another continent lord's mansion. With your good looks, you can easily win the hearts of other women. Why bother pestering my daughter? In other words, Yun Luofeng had used his good looks to bewitch Hong Luan. Hong Luan's eyes were filled with anger. Just as she was about to retort, the young man next to her suddenly grabbed her hand and gently patted it. Yun Luofeng raised his black eyes and looked at the continent lord's ashen face. No one can stop Hong Luan from marrying someone she doesn't want to. The youth's voice was loud and clear, filled with a domineering aura. After saying these words, she grabbed Hong Luan's arm and slowly walked out of the hall under the astonished gazes of the crowd. The scenery of the continent lord's mansion was pleasing to the eye. Yun Luofeng pulled Hong Luan along the corridor in the backyard before stopping. Hong Luan turned her head and looked at the perfect side profile of the youth beside her. She said sincerely, "Yun Luofeng, thank you. If you were really a man, I would definitely want to marry you." Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. "If I were a man, I would also only marry a person named Yun Xiao. If she was a woman, she would marry Yun Xiao. If she was a man, she would definitely marry him." In this lifetime, the only person she had set her sights on was Yun Xiao. Poochie. Hong Luan could not help but laugh. Her eyes and brows curved into crescents. "I really envy the relationship between you and your husband. In this lifetime, all I want is a pair of people for the rest of my life. If I don't have this pair of people, I'd rather not marry and spend the rest of my life alone." She would never compromise for the sake of anyone. Yun Luofeng was about to speak when he saw the sorrow on Hong Luan's face. But at that moment, a joyful voice rang out from the front. Chapter 13:28. "Luaner, you're back?" Hong Luan's body suddenly froze. She took a deep breath and hooked her arm around Yun Luofeng's. Her beautiful face revealed a smile as she looked at the person walking towards them. "Long time no see, Ling Chen." It was a handsome man dressed in brocaded robes that accentuated his noble aura. He held a folding fan in his hand and had a graceful demeanor. He looked like a noble young master who had not been tainted by the filth of the world. "Hong Luan, this is—" Ling Chen turned to look at Yun Luofeng and frowned. His tone was filled with dissatisfaction. Hong Luan was full of smiles, but no emotions could be seen on her face. Even so, Yun Luofeng could feel that Hong Luan had tightened her grip on his arm. "My man, Yun Luofeng." Hong Luan's words caused Ling Chen's handsome face to darken. "Luaner, don't forget that I'm your fiancé." "Fiancé?" Hong Luan sneered. "Don't you already have a woman you love? Since you love her so deeply, you should take responsibility for her. Why do you still want to marry me?" Ling Chen's expression did not look too good. He seemed to have thought of the woman he had given his heart to, and a trace of helplessness flashed in his eyes. "Luaner, our marriage was decided by our fathers. I can't defy them. However, my father promised me that Chu will be my concubine, and only you will be my official wife. Luaner, I'm also very helpless. I hope you can understand." Hong Luan sneered. "Don't you think that your actions will hurt the woman you love?" "No, Luaner, you don't understand. Chu is very kind. In order to not make things difficult for me, she has already agreed to marry me. However, out of guilt towards her, I will first let her be my concubine. It is because of her understanding that I came to propose marriage." Ling Chen hurriedly explained, afraid that Hong Luan would reject the marriage. If she rejected, then his father would definitely not allow Chu to marry him. Hong Luan's eyes became even colder. "You feel guilty towards Xia Chu, but not towards me? Why would I? Luan you are the official wife, and she is only a concubine. Her position is below yours, so I feel guilty towards her. As for you, I have given you the most important position, so how could I owe you anything?" Scram! Hong Luan's heart was filled with anger. "Get lost. I will never marry a scum like you. Luan Ling Chen panicked and wanted to go and pull Hong Luan back. However, before he could take a few steps, he was blocked by a snow-white figure. Yun Luofeng tightly gripped Ling Chen's hand, a cold look in his eyes. Hong Luan is one of my people. If you dare to touch her, I'll immediately cripple your arm. Ling Chen's eyes grew cold. Brat, Luan Air isn't someone you can match. If you know what's good for you, you'll… Bang! Before he could finish speaking, Hong Luan had already rushed in front of Ling Chen and viciously kicked him in the chest, sending him flying. Ling Chen, you disappoint me. I'll treat it as if I've never met you. Scram immediately. Hong Luan's eyes were domineering and her voice was filled with anger. Also, if you insult Yun Luofeng again, I'll make you speechless immediately. Ling Chen was stunned. He and Hong Luan had known each other for many years, and this was the first time this woman had attacked him in order to protect someone else. Especially, Hong Luan had even called this pretty boy her man. Wasn't this clearly betraying him? Chapter 1329. Luan Ling Chen angrily stood up, pointing at Yun Luofeng as he spoke to Hong Luan. Is it because you have this pretty boy that you treat me so coldly? You weren't like this in the past. 10 years ago you said that you wanted to marry me. Pretty boy. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes, a dangerous light flashing in his eyes. Ling Chen, Hong Luan's expression grew even colder as she stared at Ling Chen's handsome face and said icily, That's right, I did want to marry you back then, but that was 10 years ago. Do you think that because I had Yun Luofeng, I betrayed you? Wrong, the one who betrayed me was you. Ling Chen's heart was filled with rage. Luan, I'm a man. Which man doesn't have multiple wives and concubines? Women are different. Women have to be faithful to one person to the end of their life. Don't you understand this? Why should a man be able to have multiple women, but a woman has to be faithful to one person to the end of her life? I, Hong Luan, have never been willing to compromise. If I can't have one person for the rest of my life, then I won't marry. That's right. Even though she had deeply liked Ling Chen before, after he had fallen in love with another woman, she had hidden this love in her heart. But now, it seemed that her choice back then had been a wise one. When she was young, she had no idea that Ling Chen was such a disgusting scumbag. Multiple wives and concubines? Yun Luofeng smirked as he evilly smiled. That's just an excuse for a man to be lecherous. What's the use of a man who can't even control his own desires? Hong Luan, it's better if you don't want this kind of person. Hong Luan coldly looked at Ling Chen. Don't bother me again, or I'll hit you every time you come. Luan. Seeing Hong Luan and Yun Luofeng turn and leave, Ling Chen anxiously cried out. However, his talent had always been inferior to Hong Luan's, and he didn't dare to offend her at a time like this. As such, he suppressed his impulses, and anxiously watched the two of them leave. At this moment, the memories of him and Hong Luan appeared in Ling Chen's mind, as well as her every frown and smile. He didn't know why, but looking at Hong Luan's figure now, he felt a sense of anxiety. Young master, a servant hurried over. Ling Chen frowned. What happened? Miss Ya's old illness has relapsed. What? Ling Chen's expression changed, and he immediately threw Hong Luan to the back of his mind. His eyes were filled with anxiety. Let's go, we need to return to the courtyard immediately. Many years ago, the two continent lords' mansions had wanted to unite by marriage. As such, the northern continent had built a courtyard in the eastern continent so that Ling Chen could come and visit them. Who would have thought that Ling Chen would fall in love with a commoner girl, and in order to break Hong Luan's heart, she rejected the marriage and left. At this moment, in the courtyard, just as Ling Chen walked in, he heard a violent cough. This voice made his heart clench fiercely. He hurriedly pushed the door open and entered. Chu how are you? Cough, cough. Hearing Ling Chen's words, the woman on the bed raised her head, a weak smile on her beautiful face. Young Master Ling, why have you come back? You should go find Lady Hong Luan and clear up her misunderstanding. Chu Er's illness is not a problem, young Master Ling need not worry. The woman in front of him couldn't compare to the peerless beauty Hong Luan. However, compared to Hong Luan's domineering aura, this kind of weak woman was exactly what men love. Chapter 1330. No wonder Ling Chen was so infatuated with her. Compared to Hong Luan, Chu you're more important. Ling Chen quickly walked over to Xia Chu and held her delicate shoulders. His eyes were filled with heartache. If it wasn't for the fact that father promised me that he would only let you enter the family after I marry Hong Luan, I wouldn't have married her. She's too fierce and can't compare to you, Chu Xia Chu buried her head in Ling Chen's chest, her expression weak. Young Master Ling, it's Chu who has wronged you. If it wasn't for Chu you and Hong Luan would already be married. If Hong Luan doesn't want Chu to stay, then Chu is willing to leave young master. As long as young master is well, Chu is willing to do anything. The woman raised her head, her eyes filled with tears, and her voice was so soft that it could make one's heart ache. What nonsense are you saying? I'll never leave you in this lifetime. It's just that you've wronged me as a concubine. Ling Chen tightly rubbed Xia Chu's shoulders. In this lifetime, the person I've wronged the most is you. Xia Chu shook her head. No, the only person you've wronged is Miss Hong Luan. Wronged her? Ling Chen coldly laughed. Isn't it enough for me to give her the position of main wife? Why must I only have her as my only woman? He even said that he would be with her for the rest of his life. What a joke! Especially when Hong Luan went missing for a few years and hooked up with a pretty boy. What? Xia Chu covered her mouth in shock. Miss Hong Luan betrayed young master? How could she do such a despicable thing? Women are supposed to be faithful to one person and never betray their husband. After saying this, Xia Chu solemnly vowed, Young Master Ling Chen, don't worry. I'll never do anything to let you down. It's a pity that my family background isn't strong enough, so I can't become young master's main wife. Otherwise, I'll definitely take care of my husband's residence and help him find a concubine. What she meant was that Hong Luan had not done her duty as a main wife, and had actually stopped Ling Chen from taking a concubine. As a wife, shouldn't she help her husband take concubines and manage the residence? Even if Hong Luan was the big miss of the continent lord's residence, and even if she didn't follow Ling Chen to the southern continent after marrying him, she still had no right to stop Ling Chen. A wife must fulfill her duties, otherwise she would not be qualified to be a wife. If Hong Luan was as understanding as you, then I wouldn't have to worry so much. Ling Chen sighed, his face full of helplessness. Young Master Ling, Miss Hong Luan must be afraid that I will fight with her for the position. How about I go and have a heart-to-heart talk with her tomorrow? Hong Luan said gently as she held Ling Chen's hand. Ling Chen paused. Chu your body isn't too good, you should, it's fine. Chu life was saved by young master, so for young master's sake, even if I'm sick, what harm is there in going to find her? Xia Chu looked at Ling Chen in a daze, a smile on his pale face. If it was any other man who met such a considerate and infatuated woman like Xia Chu, it would be hard for him not to be tempted. Ling Chen's heart was filled with gratitude. Chu you've done so much for me. Don't worry, I'll definitely treat you well in the future. With young master's words, Chu is relieved. Xia Chu wrapped her arms around Ling Chen's neck and kissed him. The atmosphere in the room was full of ripples, and it was full of spring. Chapter 1331. In the restaurant and tea house. Hong Luan had just walked in when the waiter came out to welcome her. He greeted her respectfully. Miss Hong Luan, you're back? While I was away, did anyone touch my room? Hong Luan glanced at the waiter and asked. This. The waiter wiped the sweat off his forehead and looked at Hong Luan carefully. Miss Hong Luan, while you were away, young Master Ling Chen brought a lady here. I didn't dare to stop young Master Ling Chen, so, Ling Chen? Brought a lady? A cold light flashed across Hong Luan's eyes. Her voice was domineering and soul-stirring. I don't like it when others touch my things. Throw away the tables and chairs immediately and replace them with new ones. I'll only give you 15 minutes. Don't let my friend wait too long. When the waiter heard this, he hurriedly agreed. Only then did he see the young man in white following closely behind Hong Luan. His eyes flashed with amazement. All these years, he had met many people, but he had never met a man who was so good-looking. He was even more beautiful than a woman. If you dare to look at her again, I'll poke your eyes blind. When Hong Luan saw the waiter staring at Yun Luofeng, her face immediately darkened. She shouted sternly, "Also, since this room has been booked by me all year round, even if I'm not here, no one else has the right to use it. If you dare to let anyone in again, you can forget about keeping this restaurant open. Yun Luofeng, let's go." Hong Luan pulled Yun Luofeng's hand and walked towards the second floor. The corners of Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a devilish smile. She did not break free from Hong Luan's arm, and allowed her to pull her into the room. Bang! Hong Luan kicked open the door of the room. Her cold eyes swept across the clean and plain room. Her willowy eyebrows were raised and her eyes were filled with anger. "Looks like I can't wait for the people of the restaurant to clean up. I'm not happy just looking at these tables and chairs." Whoosh! Hong Luan's sleeves stirred up a hurricane which destroyed the tables and chairs. After that, she dusted her hands and turned to face the waiter who had just arrived. Her lips curled into a smile. "Remember, I've given you money to reserve this room, so this room belongs to me. Without my permission, no one is allowed to enter. Scram immediately!" The waiter scurried out in fear. Not long after, a group of people took the table and chairs away and replaced them with brand new ones for Hong Luan. Yun Luofeng. Hong Luan sat down and poured a cup of tea for Yun Luofeng. She raised an eyebrow and looked at him. "Do you think I am too domineering?" Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea and slowly put it down. "What's wrong with being domineering? If someone dislikes your character, that only proves that he doesn't love you. Furthermore, you didn't do anything wrong. Since you gave the restaurant money, they have no right to give your things to others. So, you didn't do anything wrong." Hong Luan laughed. Her eyes were filled with joy. "Yun Luofeng, I think we will become bosom friends in the future." Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes slightly. "I hope so." "That's right, Hong Luan, do me another favor." "Say it." "As long as I can help you, I will definitely help you." "Soul fruit. Help me look for the soul fruit. At the same time, help me investigate the background of the child who follows me." She would never be able to compare to the power in Hong Luan's hands if she were to investigate these matters herself. Chapter 1332. That was why she had asked Hong Luan to do this for her. Hong Luan blinked. "It's not just one favor, it's two. If I help you with these two favors, what do I get in return?" "I'll help you deal with Ling Qin. However, I don't want to go against the Northern Continent, so I'll need you to personally deal with the Northern Continent." She could help Hong Luan deal with Ling Qin, but Ling Qin was the young master of the Northern Continent. As such, Hong Luan had to personally deal with the aftermath. "Deal." Hong Luan's hand slammed heavily on the table. She was unable to control her strength, and the new table was once again split in half. Hong Luan's expression was a little awkward. I accidentally used too much strength. I'll immediately ask the people in the restaurant to change the table. Also, you don't have to worry about the Northern Continent attacking you. I, Hong Luan, am the future successor of the Eastern Continent. No matter how brave the Northern Continent is, they won't dare to touch someone I want to protect." Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow. "Your father wants you to marry Ling Qin so much. Isn't he afraid that the Eastern Continent will fall into the hands of the Northern Continent?" "No," Hong Luan shook her head. "My marriage with Ling Qin is just a formality. Even after we're married, I won't be able to follow him to the Northern Continent. I'm my father's only daughter, so I definitely want to inherit the Eastern Continent. However, the situation in the Eastern Continent is very unstable. The reason my father wants us to unite by marriage is to ensure the relationship between the two continents." One was the future continent lord of the eastern continent, while the other was the successor of the northern continent. Their union would definitely tie the two great powers together. After Hong Luan finished explaining, she coldly harumphed, "My father is really muddle-headed. He thinks that a marriage can solve all problems. I, Hong Luan, don't need a marriage to ask for help. Even if I have to rely on myself, I'll still make the eastern continent last for 1,000 years." When the woman said this, the domineering look in her eyes was revealed, and her soul-stirring voice echoed in the room. "Miss Hong Luan." The waiter walked in from outside and respectfully said, "The lady who came with young Master Ling Chen said that she wants to see you, Miss Hong Luan." Hong Luan was startled. "Xia Chu? Why is she here? Let her in." Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea and asked, "What do you think of this Xia Chu's character?" "I'm not sure." Hong Luan shook her head. "I've only met her a few times, so I don't know her well. Furthermore, I don't have any ill feelings towards Xia Chu. It's all that scumbag Ling Chen's fault. She's also a victim." In her heart, there was only one person she hated, Ling Chen. Even though Xia Chu had obtained Ling Chen's heart, she still didn't hate her. Hong Luan had always thought that Xia Chu was just a pitiful person. After a while, a woman was led in by a waiter. The woman was dressed in a green Confucian dress with a purple belt around her waist. Her black hair fluttered in the wind, and as she walked, her figure was graceful and her slender waist could be faintly seen. After entering the room, the woman gently raised her head. It was also at this moment that Yun Luofeng clearly saw the woman's appearance. Even though her beauty could not be compared to Hong Luan's enchanting and peerless elegance, it was undeniable that this kind of gentle beauty would cause the hearts of countless men to move. Her pair of beautiful eyes were filled with faint tears, and her gentle and beautiful face was slightly pale. Her delicate and pitiful appearance made people feel pity for her. Chapter 1333. However, Yun Luofeng had met many such gentle and beautiful women over the years. Compared to such women, he preferred the domineering Hong Luan. At least Hong Luan was very real, and would never use her pitiful appearance to attract the attention of others. Thump. Xia Chu knelt down in front of Hong Luan without saying a word. Her eyes were filled with tears as she pleaded, "Miss Hong Luan, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have taken young Master Ling Chen away. Actually, the person young Master Ling Chen wants to marry is you. Please give him a chance. I beg you." At this moment, there were many people walking to and fro outside the box. Now that they heard Xia Chu's words, they could not help but stop in their tracks and look over. Hong Luan's expression gradually became cold. "To be honest, I pitied you before. After all, you were also harmed by Ling Chen, and he couldn't marry you. But now I won't pity you anymore. Isn't there a saying that goes, 'A pitiful person must have a hateful side'?" Xia Chu was stunned. She bit her lips. "Miss Hong Luan, young Master Ling Chen still has you in his heart. If you don't want to see me, I can disappear and never appear in front of young Master Ling Chen again. I just beg you to give him a chance." Hong Luan narrowed her eyes, and anger gradually appeared in her beautiful eyes. Just as she was about to explode in anger, a hand suddenly landed on her back. An evil voice sounded next to her ear. "I said before, I'll get rid of these two people for you." Hong Luan was stunned. She looked at Yun Luofeng, and chose to retreat to the back. Xia Chu raised her head, and her gaze slowly fell on the handsome young man's face. In that instant, her heart seemed to have been violently pounded, and her face was dyed red. No wonder Hong Luan had become so disdainful of Ling Chen. It turned out that she had unknowingly seduced such a handsome young man. It was such a pity that such a handsome young man was with a shrew like Hong Luan. Yun Luofeng lightly stroked his chin, and looked at the kneeling Xia Chu with a smile that did not seem like a smile. "You want Hong Luan to marry Ling Chen. Is it because of your own selfishness, or is it because of Ling Chen?" Xia Chu's gaze was sincere and sincere. "Everything I do is for young Master Ling Chen. Furthermore, as long as Miss Hongluan is willing to marry him, I can leave this place without asking for anything. I will never see him again. All right, since that's the case, you can leave. Yun Luofeng nodded and said seriously. Xia Chu's expression changed on the spot. She clenched her fists tightly, restraining the anger and indignation in her heart. Why? Just because his family was inferior to Hongluan, he had to suffer such grievances? Hongluan could only reincarnate. If she was the young miss of the Continent Lord Manor, then Hongluan would definitely be inferior to her in every aspect. Young Master, I also want to leave young Master Ling Chen, but… Xia Chu loosened his fist, took out a handkerchief, and wiped the tears from his eyes. Young Master Ling Chen doesn't want to let me go. The smile on Yun Luofeng's face became more and more demonic. She looked at the crowd. Everyone, I'm sure you all heard her clearly. She kept saying that Hongluan wouldn't give Ling Chen a chance. Now that she has given him a chance, she rejected it herself. You can't blame Hongluan for this. Xia Chu looked down, his eyes filled with hatred. She was just casually saying that because she knew that Hongluan would think that Ling Chen's body was not clean, and would definitely refuse. Moreover, she didn't really want to ask Hongluan to marry Ling Chen. She just wanted Ling Chen to know her determination. This way, even if the Continent Lord objected, Ling Chen would not hesitate to let her marry him. Chapter 1334. However, she never thought that this young man would agree on Hongluan's behalf. The onlookers also reacted to Yun Luofeng's words, and immediately turned to Xia Chu. Miss, with your status, you're not good enough for young Master Ling Chen. Why don't you just leave? That's right, this young master is right. Just then, you said that in order to help them, you wanted to leave young Master Ling Chen. Now that you've been given the chance, why aren't you willing to leave? Tisk tsk, do you even need to think about it? She never planned to leave from the start, and was just putting on an act. How could someone like her compare to Miss Hongluan? If this was anywhere else, perhaps some people would think that Xia Chu was pitiful, and would stand on her side. However, this was the Eastern Continent. Although Hongluan was domineering, she was also very protective. As long as it was a citizen of the Eastern Continent, no matter who was in trouble, she would not be stingy. Because of this, she was loved and respected by the citizens of the Eastern Continent. As such, Xia Chu wanted to guide the public opinion, but found the wrong place. Why? Xia Chu stood up from the ground. She staggered as tears flowed down her pale face. Just because I'm not powerful enough, I have to be bullied? I don't even have the right to be with my lover? Is it wrong to fall in love with someone? Yun Luofeng crossed his arms and looked at Xia Chu. Firstly, you said that you wanted to leave, and no one forced you to. Secondly, since you love Ling Chen so deeply, it's enough for you to be with him forever. Why did you come to harass Hongluan? Aren't you asking for it? Xia Chu's body trembled. I just wanted to help young Master Ling Chen. All right, I'll give you another chance. If you can kneel here for 5 days and 5 nights, I might consider giving Hongluan to him. Yun Luofeng held Hongluan's hand and walked towards the door. Let's go. Our mood has been ruined, and we don't have the mood to stay. When she walked to Xia Chu's side, she stopped and said in a low voice, I won't let anyone hurt Hongluan, so, if you want to die, I don't mind killing you. After saying this, the young man in white passed through the crowd, and disappeared from Xia Chu's sight. On the bustling street, Hongluan struggled free from Yun Luofeng's grasp. She stopped in her tracks and raised her head to look at him. Yun Luofeng, just now, thank you very much. If it were her, she would have definitely attacked Xia Chu after being provoked. But Yun Luofeng was different. Even if she did not make a move, Xia Chu would be badly injured. This caused Xia Chu, who originally had the upper hand, to fall into a disadvantageous position. Hongluan. Yun Luofeng turned his head and looked at the woman in red behind him. In order to enter the Northern Continent's Continent Lord's mansion, Xiachu will definitely kneel in a restaurant for 5 days and 5 nights. When that time comes, get someone to watch over her. Also, be prepared to be blamed by Ling Qin. Hong Luan smiled. I used to think highly of Ling Qin, but later on, I realized that I was blind. That scum's words can no longer hurt me, and, she paused for a moment before continuing, you did the right thing. Ling Qin loves Xiachu. If I force Xiachu to kneel for 5 days and 5 nights, Ling Qin will definitely become furious. From now on, I can also get rid of his pestering. Hong Luan sighed. Her voice was a little sad. They used to be childhood sweethearts. Why did things have to escalate to such an extent? Chapter 1335. Hong Luan. Yun Luofeng thought for a moment, then said, Ling Qin came to find you today, but he left because of an urgent matter. I asked around, it was said that Xia Chu's old illness had relapsed, so he left in a hurry. However, I saw Xia Chu's body today, and her body is so weak, because she took a medicinal herb called luotsang flower. Luotsang flower? Hong Luan was stunned. What is this luotsang flower? A medicinal herb that can fake a weak body. In other words, in order to get Ling Qin to go back, she purposely took the luotsang flower to fake her illness. Other than that, there is nothing wrong with her body. So, I want to ask, when you and Ling Qin met, did Xiachu often use this excuse to get him back? Hong Luan was silent for a long time, then nodded. Indeed, a few years ago, Ling Qin accidentally saved Xiachu, and the two of them had feelings for each other. Xiachu got pregnant before marriage, and Ling Qin wanted to take her as a concubine, but the Continent Lord's mansion did not agree, and even put Ling Qin under house arrest, causing Xiachu to miscarry in grief. Since then, she has been sick and weak. Because of this, Ling Qin feels so guilty towards her, always thinking that he harmed her. After saying this, she raised her beautiful eyes and looked at Yun Luofeng seriously. So, you said that there is nothing wrong with her body, is that true? I'm very sure that there is nothing wrong with her body. Yun Luofeng's words caused Hong Luan's heart to tremble. She, who had pitied Xiachu, had now placed her sympathy on Ling Qin. So, Ling Qin is just an idiot, and was fooled around by a woman. This woman is really scheming. She knew that she had lost her child, and could not use the child to enter the Northern Continent Prefecture, so she pretended to be sick to make Ling Qin feel guilty. Yun Luofeng lightly stroked his chin. Hong Luan, this luotsang flower is not a very magical medicinal herb, but did the Continent Lord's mansion not have any doctors to diagnose her? Hong Luan shook her head. At that time, Ling Qin felt very guilty, and wanted to let the Continent Lord's mansion doctors treat her, but Xiachu desperately refused. She said that her status was low, and that she was not worthy of those noble doctors treating her. Moreover, if she used the power of the Continent Lord's mansion, the Continent Lord would definitely not allow her to enter the Northern Continent. Because of this, Ling Qin was incredibly moved, and he wanted to give Xiachu all of his love. I finally understand why Ling Qin didn't choose you, Yun Luofeng said as he blinked. It's because you won't act pitiful like Xiachu, nor will you say things that other people like to hear. However, one day, you'll meet someone who appreciates your straightforward personality. Because Hong Luan was too straightforward, she was at a disadvantage in the contest with Xiachu. However, Yun Luofeng liked her personality. At least when he was with her, he was very relaxed. You're right, Hong Luan raised her eyebrows and smiled. Do you think that I, Hong Luan, can't find an outstanding man? Who was Ling Qin? Why should I compromise for him? He likes hypocritical women like Xiachu, so I'll fulfill his wish. Yun Luofeng, let's go. There's someone I don't like in this restaurant. Let's go somewhere else. A rose-like smile blossomed on Hong Luan's face. She held Yun Luofeng's hand tightly and walked quickly towards another restaurant. After entering the restaurant, Yun Luofeng finally understood what it meant to be heroic. Chapter 1336. In the Eastern Continent, Hong Luan had reserved a private room in every restaurant. This was so that she wouldn't have to use other people's items. When all of the dishes were served, they looked, smelled, and tasted great. Hong Luan looked at Yun Luofeng and raised her eyebrows. "You don't like this restaurant's food?" Yun Luofeng put a mouthful in his mouth and shook his head. "No, I just miss someone's cooking." After leaving Yun Xiao, she still couldn't get used to the food outside. Of course, if it was anyone else, after tasting Yun Xiao's cooking, they probably wouldn't be able to eat it either. It was like heaven and earth. "That's right, Yun Luofeng, where did Hu Li go?" Yun Luofeng put down his chopsticks. "He's not far from me, so he won't appear by my side for now." Before she found out who Wu was, she wouldn't let him near her. As for Hu Li, she was sent to keep an eye on Wu. "You suspect that child's identity, so you sent Hu Li to keep an eye on him. Aren't you afraid that Hu Li will be in danger?" Hong Luan asked curiously. Yun Luofeng smiled. "If there's really something wrong with this child, then his target is me. As such, he won't go and harm Hu Li." This was why he didn't worry about Hu Li being alone with him. By the time Yun Luofeng and Hong Luan returned to the Continent Lord's residence, it was already quite late. Just as the two of them stepped through the door, a figure rushed towards them like a madman. "Hong Luan!" Ling Chen let out a roar of anger, and quickly rushed in front of Hong Luan. His tightly clenched fists made cracking sounds, and his eyes were bloodshot. "Why did you do this? Why did you punish Chu-Er like this? She only came to find you because of me. How could you be so cruel to a kind-hearted woman like her?" Ling Chen was so angry that his body trembled. "I want you to beg Chu-Er to get up. Otherwise, when I force her to get up, she'll threaten me with suicide. She even said that without your order, she won't dare to get up. Come with me to beg her to get up." He didn't use please, but beg. Just as Ling Chen grabbed Hong Luan's arm and was about to take her away, Hong Luan's gaze became cold, and she flung his hand away. "My Feng-er said that if she knelt for 5 days and 5 nights, Feng-er would consider giving me to you. However, I didn't force her to kneel. This is her own choice and has nothing to do with me." At that time, Yun Luofeng had only said that he would consider it. It was not an absolute sentence. Even if Xia Chu knelt for 5 days and 5 nights, Yun Luofeng still wouldn't hand the Hong Luan over to Ling Chen. Ling Chen raised his hand and viciously slapped Hong Luan. Just as his hand was about to land on Hong Luan's face, Hong Luan raised her hand and grabbed the man's wrist tightly. "Ling Chen, our friendship ends here. I don't owe you anything." Hong Luan suddenly exerted force, causing Ling Chen to take a few steps back. He gripped his wrist, which had been bruised by Hong Luan's grip, and raised his eyes to look at the gradually disappearing red dress. He didn't know why, but when he saw the woman's heartless face, his heart felt empty in an instant. Even Ling Chen didn't know where this feeling came from. Eldest Mississippi, suddenly, a guard walked out and cupped his fists towards Hong Luan. He respectfully said, "Eldest Miss, the Continent Lord has invited you and young Master Yun to make a trip." "Father is looking for me?" Hong Luan was stunned. She turned to look at Yun Luofeng and asked, "If you want to go with me, then we'll go now. If you're not willing, then no one can force you." Chapter 1337. Let's go. Yun Luofeng shrugged. Since the Continent Lord wanted her to go with Hong Luan, there was no harm in her going. Hong Luan did not say much, but she had already made up her mind. If her father really made things difficult for Yun Luofeng, she would stand by her father's side regardless of the consequences. This was the promise she had made to her before. A gentleman's word was worth 1,000 gold, and she could not go back on it. The atmosphere in the study was solemn. A middle-aged man stood with his hands behind his back facing the door. His aura was imposing and unapproachable. This was the second time Yun Luofeng had seen Continent Lord Hong Ling, the person who commanded the winds and clouds in the East Continent. Hong Ling seemed to have sensed their arrival, and slowly turned around. At this moment, she was no longer as aggressive as before, and her expression was one of helplessness as she sighed heavily. Luan, are you really not willing to marry Ling Chen? When Hong Luan first returned to the Continent Lord's mansion, he was so angry that he could not help but berate her. Now that he had calmed down, in order to not force his daughter to leave again, he could only suppress his anger and ask helplessly. Hearing this, Hong Luan nodded heavily. Yes, I will not marry Ling Chen. Luan, in the future, the 7 continents will undergo great changes. If you marry Ling Chen and unite the 2 continents, you will be able to survive in the 7 continents. Hong Ling's expression gradually became serious. Otherwise, the East continent will be destroyed. Hong Luan sneered. Father, if you want the East continent to survive the great changes in the 7 continents in the future, you will have to marry your daughter? If it were someone else, it would be fine. But I, Hong Luan, will never use marriage to seek peace. Great changes in the 7 continents? When Yun Luofeng heard these words, he secretly paid attention, but he still stood by Hong Luan without saying a word. Luan, Hong Ling's eyes were filled with anger. You are only a woman. No matter how talented you are, how can you support the entire East continent with your own strength? But I only have one daughter, you. If you don't marry Ling Chen, how can I die in peace? Hong Luan did not expect her father to be so stubborn, and her expression became colder. I said, with my own strength, I don't need the North Continent's help. One day, I'll be able to make the Eastern Continent stand at the top of the 7 continents with my own strength. Forget it. This peerless expert, whose name shook the world, was now completely helpless against his daughter, who was in her rebellious phase. He knew his daughter's temper. Once she set her mind on something, she would not turn back even if she died. Luan, if you don't suffer, you won't turn back. Even I can't do anything to you. Hong Ling smiled bitterly. Even though he was very strict with his daughter, she was his only daughter after all. Was he going to put her on the bridal sedan? I won't bother with your business anymore. Also, you have to deal with the matter between you and Ling Chen on your own. Also, the Northern Continent's Continent Lord will personally visit you in a few days to cancel the engagement. Have you thought of a way to reject him? Tactfully refuse? Why should I refuse? Hong Luan sneered. I won't marry, I won't marry. Even if the Emperor of Heaven comes, I won't marry. Hong Ling shook her head helplessly. Only then did she look at Yun Luofeng. At this moment, perhaps because Yun Luofeng found the conversation between the father and daughter boring, she casually pulled a chair and sat down. Her body leaned lazily against the back of the chair, and her evil eyes seemed to look down on the world. Chapter 1338. However, Yun Luofeng's arrogant attitude displeased Hong Ling, and her face darkened. When they first met, because Yun Luofeng and Hong Luan didn't stay for long, he didn't get a good look at Yun Luofeng. Now, he could carefully scan Yun Luofeng from head to toe. However, a jade pendant on the youth's waist fell into his eyes. The word June was clearly engraved on the jade pendant, causing his pupils to shrink. You're from the June family of Spirit State? The June family of Spirit State? Yun Luofeng froze. Her gaze gradually fell on the jade pendant on her body, her eyes filled with suspicion. This jade pendant was given to her by June Fengling. Could there be a problem? What is the June family of Spirit State? Yun Luofeng's evil eyes twitched as he asked. The Lord of Spirit State is surnamed June. Hong Ling stared at Yun Luofeng. Now tell me, where did you get this jade pendant? Yun Luofeng caressed the jade pendant and faintly raised his lips. It's something my mother has carried with her since she was young. Is there a problem? June Fengling was Yun Zhao's mother, so naturally, she was also her mother. She couldn't say that it was a gift from her mother-in-law, so she called June Fengling mother. Hong Ling's pupils shrank, but returned to normal in the blink of an eye. If you want to know the origin of this jade pendant, you can go to the June family of spirit state. You will naturally find the answers you want there. In addition, the June family has offended many people. I advise you to take off this jade pendant to avoid being discovered by your enemies. Yun Luofeng's eyes narrowed, and he pondered for a moment. The June family of spirit state? It seemed that after she found Yun Xiao, she had to make a trip to spirit state. Find an answer. After Yun Luofeng left the study, Hong Luan seemed to see that her father had something to say, so she stayed behind and asked in a low voice, "Father, what is the matter with the June family that you speak of?" Hong Ling sighed. Many years ago, the old master of the June family offended the former continent lord of the spirit state. As a result, he was hunted by countless masters of the spirit state. At that time, his wife was killed by the former continent lord. In order to protect his infant daughter's life, the old master of the June family had no choice but to give her to an old friend. Later, the old man of the June family went back to seek revenge on the former continent lord and annihilated the entire continent lord's mansion. That's why he became the continent lord of spirit state. However, he never moved away from the June family. Therefore, when people mention the continent lord's mansion, they refer to it as the June family of spirit state. But he has already become the rightful continent lord. All these years, the old man still missed his late wife and never remarried. He even searched everywhere for his daughter's whereabouts. However, not to mention his daughter, even his old friend had disappeared without a trace. So, the missing daughter of the June family is the biggest sore in his heart. And now, the June family's jade pendant has appeared in Yun Luofeng's hands. Could it be that her mother is the daughter of Old Man June? Hong Luan was a little surprised. She had not expected Yun Luofeng to have such an identity. She was silent for a moment and then asked, "Are you sure that Yun Luofeng's mother is a daughter of the June family? That jade pendant couldn't have come from someone else in the June family?" Hong Ling shook her head. The word June on this jade pendant was carved with a special technique. Especially since this jade pendant can withstand an attack from a strong master. Do you think that an ordinary person of the June family could have such a jade pendant? Hong Luan blinked her eyes. "Father, should we inform the June family about this?" Chapter 1339. In fact, Hong Luan didn't want to inform the June family just to give Yun Luofeng a guarantee. More importantly, she was very fond of Grandpa June. The old man's wife had been dead for so many years, but he had always kept to his heart and never married. After he took his revenge, he wholeheartedly searched for his daughter, and he had not given up even now. How could she not be moved by this spirit? There is no doubt that this jade pendant came from Old Man June. However, whether or not Yun Luofeng's mother is the young miss of the June family still needs to be verified. Moreover, after Old Man June handed over the June family to his disciple, he left the spirit state. His whereabouts are still a mystery. Finding him is easier said than done. Hong Ling shook her head and sighed helplessly. The old man of the June family had always been traveling among the continents. Even the June family didn't know where he was. Moreover, he only had his own disciple's daughter with him. Looking for him was like looking for a needle in a haystack. "Father, no matter what, we must inform the June family. The June family will surely have a way to find Grandpa June." Hong Luan's expression was firm. If Yun Luofeng had the June family as his backing, then he would be able to walk unhindered in the 7 continents. Who would dare to bully and humiliate her? All right. Hong Ling's eyes flashed. "Hong Luan, you should build a good relationship with Yun Luofeng. If he really is the daughter of the June family's eldest daughter, there's no harm in marrying him." Hong Ling became more and more excited as she spoke. The spirit state was ranked near the top of the 7 continents. If they could ally with the June family, it would be much better than the northern continent. However, before he could restrain his excitement, Hong Luan sprayed a basin of cold water at him. First, my relationship with Yun Luofeng has always been pretty good. Secondly, the Jun family is the Jun family, and Yun Luofeng is Yun Luofeng. It doesn't matter if she's a member of the Jun family or not. I'm different from you. You place too much importance on power. In my eyes, power is not as important as friendship. If you chase after power too much, then how much can you achieve in this life? After being taught a lesson by her own daughter, Hong Ling's face turned green and white. Anger surged in her heart. Father, we are cultivators, and cultivators should do as they please. Too many distracting thoughts will only make it difficult for us to move forward. If you insist on making me become like you, then I don't want the position of Continent Lord. I believe that with my strength, I can also step onto the peak of the continent. Hong Luan had long disliked Hong Ling's pursuit of fame and fortune. From her point of view, cultivation was about following one's heart. Regardless of whether Yun Luofeng was a member of the Jun family or not, she would always consider him as a friend. It would never change. If there was a reason why she valued Yun Luofeng so much, it was probably because of the battle in the inn. This battle caused her to feel a sense of kinship with Yun Luofeng. Furthermore, after interacting with him for the past few days, she understood that they were the same kind of people. Furthermore, in that battle, she and Yun Luofeng had fought to a draw, and her goal was to defeat her one day. Luan, are you? Hong Ling slammed the table and stood up, glaring at her angrily. Hong Luan remained unmoved as she smiled. Father, I won't use any of the Jun family's power for you if Yun Luofeng is a member of the Jun family. But, she's the only person I can call a friend if she isn't a member of the Jun family. The people she had met in the past were all people who tried to curry favor with her for the sake of the power of the Continent Lord's mansion. Only Yun Luofeng could become her friend. Chapter 1340. Hong Ling was even more furious. She slammed her hand on the table, splitting it into two. However, Hong Luan turned around and left, not caring about Hong Ling's anger. Rebellious. This girl is rebellious. She dared to talk to her father like that, and she even dared to teach him a lesson. Hong Ling was furious. How could she stand at the peak of the continent without power? How could she have gotten to this point with the strength of one person? How could she have become so powerful if the Continent Lord hadn't provided her with the conditions to cultivate? Hong Ling became angrier the more he thought about it. He never believed that a person at the bottom could rely on their own strength to reach the peak. He also didn't believe that without the nurturing of the family, she would have much strength. A golden phoenix could never climb out of a mountain village. A phoenix could only be created with countless treasures. Forget it, I don't care about you anymore. You can do whatever you want. I risked my life to ask for a marriage alliance with the northern continent, and I also asked for the Jun family's help. Wasn't it all for you? I've done so much, but you don't appreciate it at all. Your stubbornness is exactly like your mother's. I owe you and your mother in this life. Hong Luan let out a heavy sigh and sat down. At this moment, this powerful person was like a helpless father facing his rebellious daughter. He could only let her make her life choices. Hong Luan looked very tired after she left the study. She had just opened the door when she saw the young man in white sitting in her room, sipping tea. Yun Luofeng? Hong Luan was startled. Why are you in my room? Yun Luofeng put down his teacup and looked up at Hong Luan. What do you mean by the great changes of the 7 continents? Hong Luan walked in and poured herself a cup of tea. She took a sip before putting it down. The great changes of the 7 continents happened once 1,000 years ago. Hong Luan looked at Yun Luofeng. Do you know that there is a terrifying existence suppressed under the 7 continents? These existences only awaken once every 1,000 years. When they awaken, it will be a disaster for the entire mainland. However, no one knows when they will awaken. My father is afraid that I won't be able to deal with these existences when he is no longer around. That's why he wants to form a marriage alliance with the northern continent. hoping to borrow the power of the northern continent to help me. Yun Luofeng frowned deeply. This was the first time she had heard of such a thing. Actually, I know that my father is doing this for my own good. However, I am not willing to listen to his orders. I do not believe that I will not be able to fight against those existences with my strength. Hong Luan laughed and explained. Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow. It seems like there isn't just this conflict between you and your father. Hong Luan was stunned. She shrugged helplessly. You found out? Because my mother was killed by him, I have never had a good impression of him since I was young. Your mother? That's right. My mother has an unyielding temperament, and her temper is even hotter than mine. She's also very powerful. Back then, she fought for the eastern continent with my father's help. However, in order to make his powerful subordinates loyal to him forever and never betray him, my father decided to take their daughter as a concubine. How could a person like my mother allow her man to have multiple wives? She left my father in a fit of anger. Later, in order to prove to my father that he does not need to rely on a marriage alliance to consolidate his power, she forcefully broke through, causing her body to explode and her soul to be destroyed. Chapter 1341. If a person died, he or she could be reborn, but if the soul was destroyed, it was the same as disappearing from the world. Hong Luan laughed coldly. I was still young back then, and did not remember my mother very well. But she was my mother after all. How could I not hate her? Sometimes I really did not want her to be my father. Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea, and continued to listen to Hong Luan. Perhaps it was retribution. All these years my father had countless concubines, but none of them had children. Hong Luan's smile became even colder. Yun Luofeng, tell me, how can men be so heartless? My mother fought for this world with him. After he obtained this world, he wanted to take a concubine in the blink of an eye. Is power and influence really that important to a man? At this moment, a handsome yet cold face appeared in Yun Luofeng's mind, and his lips curled into a smile. If he loved you, he would give up the world for you. If he did not love you, in his eyes, you are not as important as the world. That year, when he first met Yun Xiao, she was just a trash with a bad reputation. But he was a high and mighty ghost emperor. For her, he was willing to lower his status and become the man behind her back. If she asked, this man would definitely conquer the world for her. In this life, with a husband like this, what else could she ask for? Yun Luofeng, I just told my father that if he forced me again, I would give up the Continent Lord's mansion. Actually, I was just scaring him. I am his only daughter. If not the Continent Lord's mansion, who else would he give it to? Although I do not care about power, this Continent Lord's mansion, I must take it. Hong Luan's gaze became resolute. Because the East Continent belongs to my mother, I will not let anyone take advantage of it. What a joke! How could she give up the East Continent? For her mother, she would not give up the East Continent. I believe in your strength. Yun Luofeng smiled slightly. With Hong Luan's power, she could indeed achieve great things in the future. But who knew, would there be a man who could move her heart again? But Ling Qin was no longer her choice. Mississippi, a servant pushed open the door and hurriedly reported, Young Master Ling Qin is still at the door, unwilling to leave. Don't worry about him, Hong Luan sneered. If he likes to wait, let him wait. I want to see how long he can wait. According to Ling Chen's personality, he'll definitely leave within 6 hours. Hong Luan seemed to have overestimated Ling Chen. Let alone 6 hours, he didn't even wait for 2 hours before hurrying to the restaurant to persuade Xia Chu. However, Xia Chu had already made up his mind that he would not get up until the 5th day. Because of this, Ling Chen's hatred towards Hong Luan increased by a few levels. As for the emptiness in his heart, it had long since been thrown to the back of his mind. Hong Luan, just you wait. Today you've treated Xia Chu this way. In the future, I'll make you pay 1,000 times over, he said hatefully. At this moment, Ling Chen, whose eyes were filled with flames of fury, didn't notice the sinister and pleased look in Xia Chu's eyes. Hong Luan, your character is too overbearing and unreasonable, and men will never like a woman like you. As long as I use some tricks, even the peerless white-robed young man next to you will become mine. At this moment, an arrogant and confident face appeared in Xia Chu's mind, and a look of infatuation appeared in her eyes. This was the first time she had seen such a peerless young man. Chapter 1342. The incredibly handsome Ling Chen in her eyes, compared to her, was like the clouds and mud. That young man was like a celestial being. Even a single glance from him was enough to make one's heart flutter. It was a pity that the young man's family was not as good as Ling Chen's. It was because of this that she had suppressed the impulse in her heart that day. However, if she could spend a night with the young man, she would be satisfied. As for Yun Luofeng's protection of Hong Luan and disdain towards her, it was not very important to her. No man could resist a woman who was as gentle as water. It was a pity that Xia Chu did not know that Yun Luofeng was a woman. It was because she did not know that she did something that she would regret for the rest of her life. 5 days later. The crowd in the bustling restaurant had long since dispersed. Ling Chen's heart ached as he helped Xia Chu up. He gritted his teeth. Chu, don't worry. After I marry Hong Luan, I'll teach her a lesson for you. Xia Chu lowered her head. Her fine black hair fell down, covering her pale face. Young Master Ling Chen, I've already completed the task that Miss Hong Luan gave me. I'll go with you to see her now. Also, I want to talk to that young Master Yun. I hope that he'll keep his promise and give Miss Hong Luan to you. No. Ling Chen hurriedly grabbed Xia Chu's hand. How can I let you go and see that guy? You're so pretty. What if he has ill intentions and bullies you? Xia Chu bitterly smiled. Young master, if he really wants to do something that's worse than an animal to me, then wouldn't it be better to let Miss Hong Luan know who he is? I won't agree. Leave this matter to me. Chu, you don't have to worry about it. Ling Chen frowned. Xia Chu was his daughter. How could he allow his woman to see a stranger? As such, he would never agree. Young master, if you go and find him, you're both love rivals. How could he give Miss Hong Luan to you? Xia Chu shook her head. Actually, what he said that day was that if I knelt for 5 days and 5 nights, he'd consider giving Hong Luan to me. He didn't say that he'd definitely give her up. Ling Chen's heart trembled. Then why did you have to suffer for 5 days? Young master, I won't give up even if there's a sliver of hope for you. Xia Chu bit his lips and continued. Besides, it's best if I persuade young Master Yun to let go. However, you need to keep Hong Luan occupied during that period of time. Otherwise, with Hong Luan's temper, she will definitely not allow young Master Yun to do such a thing. Chu. Ling Chen tightly hugged Xia Chu. You've done so much for me. How could I have met such a kind and virtuous person? Xia Chu buried her head in Ling Chen's chest, unable to see the expression in her eyes. You're the love of my life, and for you, Chu is willing to go to hell without fear. Xia Chu raised her head, looking at Ling Chen with tears in her eyes. Don't worry, young master. Since Chu has decided to follow you, I'll definitely keep myself pure for you. If that young man really wants to molest Chu won't let him get away with it. Ling Chen thought for a moment, then said, All right, then I'll send someone to protect you in secret. Xia Chu's eyes flickered. Young master, don't let your leave get too close to me. Otherwise, he'll definitely find out. If he sees young master's men, Tai Pin won't let go of Miss Hong Luan. For young master, Chu is willing to give it her all. Chapter 1343. Continent Lord's Mansion. In the West Court, just as Hong Luan was about to look for Yun Luofeng, a figure suddenly appeared in front of her, blocking her way. She frowned. Who let you in? Whenever Ling Chen thought about what Hong Luan had done to Xia Chu, he would feel a surge of anger in his heart. However, when he thought about his purpose in coming to the Continent Lord's mansion, he suppressed his anger. Hong Luan, this time I'm not here to bother you, nor to cause trouble for you. I just want to have a talk with you. As for Xia Chu, he had already sent people to follow him, so that Brat would not be able to do anything to Xia Chu. What do I have to talk to you about? Hong Luan coldly laughed, and turned to walk away from Ling Chen. Ling Chen hurriedly took 2 steps forward, continuing to block her way. Get out of my way! Hong Luan's expression was cold as she shouted. Ling Chen looked at Hong Luan. Hong Luan, before, you wouldn't have insulted me, nor would you have hurt an innocent girl out of jealousy. You've changed, you've become incredibly cruel and merciless. Is all of this because of that kid surnamed Yun? Hearing this, Hong Luan laughed, her laughter full of mockery. That's because you don't know me well enough. Ling Chen, I'll give you a chance. Get out of my Continent Lord's mansion. From today onwards, we'll be like strangers, and we'll have nothing to do with each other. Hong Luan. Seeing that Hong Luan was about to turn and leave, Ling Chen anxiously shouted, You really don't care about our past friendship? Hong Luan stopped in her tracks, a trace of doubt in her heart. If it was the Ling Chen in the past, he would definitely be furious after what she had done to Xia Chu, but now, he did not seem to be angry at all. Instead, it seemed that he did not want her to leave. Why? Mississippi, a servant girl hurriedly ran over from the side and whispered something into Hong Luan's ear. After hearing this, Hong Luan's eyes shone, and she looked at Ling Chen strangely. Originally, Ling Chen thought that Hong Luan would not stay, but after hearing what the servant said, she was not in a hurry to leave. The smile on her face was sinister, and her eyes were full of smiles. You said you wanted to talk to me? Hong Luan looked at Ling Chen with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. All right, I'll talk to you now. Seeing Hong Luan's change, Ling Chen felt a bit uneasy, but he didn't know why. Could it be that Hong Luan knew that Chu Er had gone to find Yun Luofeng? No. This was impossible. Based on Hong Luan's personality, if she knew that another woman had gone to her man's place, she would definitely not be able to control herself and rush over aggressively. Therefore, perhaps Hong Luan was really willing to have a chat with him. Ling Chen smiled. As long as he could stall her, Chu would have a way to make Yun Luofeng give up on Hong Luan. In the room, the girl sat on a chair. Her ears twitched slightly and she heard footsteps coming from outside the door. The door was pushed open by a lily-white hand, and not long after, a gentle and beautiful woman in a green scholarly dress appeared in her room. At this moment, the woman's eyes were filled with tears. Her gaze was weak and helpless as she gazed at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng took a sip of tea, and asked indifferently, Was it Ling Chen who brought you in? Xia Chu bit her lip. Young master left me alone for Miss Hong Luan. I accidentally came here, and didn't know that this was young Master Yun's residence. Please forgive me, young master. Chapter 1344. Ling Chen went to see Hong Luan? Yun Luofeng asked with raised brows. Xia Chu nodded gently. The two of them were playing hand in hand. I felt that I was unnecessary, so I left. Logically speaking, when a man hears that his woman was playing hand in hand with another man, he would definitely be filled with jealousy. However, Yun Luofeng continued to gracefully play with the teacup in his hand, a careless smile on his peerless face. Xia Chu's eyes flashed. Yun Luofeng did not seem to care about Hong Luan at all. Did that mean that their relationship was very shallow? That she could enter at any time? After a long while, Yun Luofeng put down the teacup in his hand. If there's nothing else, you may leave. Sir Yun. Suddenly, Xia Chu threw herself at Yun Luofeng. However, she did not throw herself into the young man's arms. Instead, she knelt in front of him. Sir Yun, actually, from the first time I saw you, Chu Er understood what it means to be a celestial being. Even though you were so cruel to Chu Er's heart has already fallen into your hands. Yun Luofeng lowered her brows and gently lifted Xia Chu's chin with her finger. She smiled faintly. You mean, you want to seduce me? Xia Chu blushed and lowered her head. Chu is not as unreasonable as Miss Hong Luan. If I can serve you for a night, Chu will be satisfied. Hong Luan was unreasonable? A fierce light flashed in Yun Luofeng's eyes. She raised her leg and kicked Xia Chu away with a loud bang. Xia Chu slammed into the wall. She raised her startled eyes and stared at Yun Luofeng in disbelief. Faced with such a tender and sweet woman like her, he could actually be so cruel? In the beginning, Xia Chu had thought that Yun Luofeng was coveting the power of the Continent Lord's palace. That was why he was protecting Hong Luan in front of the public. After all, who would like an unreasonable woman like Hong Luan? However, she never expected that Yun Luofeng would attack her when Hong Luan was not around. Yun Luofeng's body leaned lazily against the back of the chair. She took out a handkerchief from her lapel and carefully wiped the finger that had lifted Xia Chu's chin. Her expression and actions made it seem as if Xia Chu was the germ that had contaminated her finger. Since you don't accept me, don't blame me for being rude. Xia Chu's eyes flickered with a cold light. With a swoosh, she tore off the clothes covering her chest, revealing half of her breasts. She was filled with temptation. Then, she purposely messed up her hair, slammed the door, and shouted, "Help! Help! Someone is trying to molest me!" Xia Chu's cries were very pitiful, and his pathetic appearance easily caused people to have wild and fanciful thoughts. The first to appear were the people Ling Chen had sent to protect Xia Chu. He had been told by Ling Chen that if Xia Chu cried out, he had to immediately appear in front of Xia Chu. Therefore, when he saw Xia Chu in such a sorry state, he flew into a rage. "Miss Xia Chu, don't worry. My young master will definitely seek justice for you." As he spoke, the people from the Continent Lord's mansion also heard the commotion and came over. The person walking at the front was impressively the travel-worn Continent Lord Hong Ling. After Hong Ling, Hong Luan and Ling Chen also hurried over. As soon as Xia Chuyen saw Ling Chen, he leapt into his arms and started to cry. "Chu, what happened? Did that bastard molest you?" When Ling Chen saw Xia Chu, he tightly clenched his fists, his eyes spitting fire. Chapter 1345. Xia Chu was sobbing uncontrollably. Her hair was disheveled, making it impossible for people not to guess what had happened to her. "Young master." Xia Chu finally stopped crying. She raised her tear-stained eyes. "You have to get justice for Chu." In other words, she was admitting that Yun Luofeng had humiliated her. "Good, very good." Ling Chen tightly gritted his teeth, to the point that he could hear them chattering. "Hong Luan, this is the man you found. He's a lecher, but not only is he lecherous, he even dared to look at Chu's beauty. This kind of person is not good enough for my Chu." Hong Luan smiled, playing with her hair. "Do you think I'm prettier or Xia Chu? Yun Luofeng would look at Xia Chu's beauty? What a joke. She can't even compare to a finger of mine. Is she worth my Feng looking at?" Everyone in the Continent Lord's residence looked at Ling Chen with hostility. If he dared to say that their young miss was not as beautiful as Xia Chu, they would definitely rush up and beat him half to death. Who cares if he's a young master of the northern continent? He can't bully the young miss. Ling Chen angrily said, "Yes, you're beautiful, but you're too unruly and unreasonable. How can you compare to Chu's gentleness? Moreover, men always look at the pot while eating from the bowl. Who can guarantee that he doesn't want to have multiple wives?" After saying this, Ling Chen turned to look at the silent Hong Ling. "Uncle Hong, you have to get justice for me." Hong Ling's stern gaze swept over the woman hiding in Ling Chen's arms, and he said in a stern voice, "Who allowed this woman to enter the Continent Lord's residence?" He did not answer Ling Chen's question, and instead questioned him. "What kind of place is the Continent Lord's residence? Is it a place that a shady woman like her can enter?" Hong Ling's eyes were filled with fire, and he said in a domineering voice, "And you, Ling Chen, this continent lord allowed you to have concubines, but I didn't say that you could bring your concubines to bully this continent lord's daughter. As such, you can forget about calling me Uncle Hong. I don't have a nephew like you." Ling Chen's face alternated between green and white as he gnashed his teeth. "Red. Continent's lord wants to protect Yun Luofeng?" "Humph, just based on this woman's words, you can conclude that Yun Luofeng humiliated her? I think this woman has ulterior motives. She can't bear to see my daughter happy, so she came to destroy this marriage." Hong Luan cast a strange glance at Hong Ling. According to his father's personality, he would definitely side with Ling Chen. After all, Ling Chen was the young master of the northern continent. As someone who valued power and influence, how could he reprimand Ling Chen because of his relationship with the various continents? It was also unreliable to say that it was because of the Jun family. He still wasn't sure if Yun Luofeng was the daughter of the Jun family's eldest daughter, so he couldn't make such a decision without being certain. Could it be that this fellow had changed? "Young master." Xia Chu's tears flowed out like water, and his voice was filled with grief. "I'm sorry, it's all Chu Er's fault. If it wasn't for Chu Er, this wouldn't have happened. Originally, Chu Er came here to find Yun Luofeng with good intentions. I wanted him to help you and Miss Hong Luan, but who knew that Yun Luofeng was such a lecher?" Xia Chu bit her lip and looked up at Ling Chen. "However, Yun Luofeng is the future son-in-law of the continent lord's residence, so let's forget about it. I don't want to burden you, young master."